Chapter 105. Nine Nether Saint Body. After sensing the source of the fluctuation, Tianyang could not help but roar in shock. No one knew better than the Tianji, Sword Emperor, the origin of the terrifying fluctuation that flashed across Ling Yuhan's body. The Nine Nether Saint Body, also known as the Nine Nether Mysterious Ice Body, was one of the most unique physiques in the Tianshao continent. The people who had the Nine Nether Saint Body, from ancient times to the present, were all terrifying geniuses who shocked the world without exception. Having the Nine Nether Saint Body meant that the person had an extraordinary talent for ice, nether, and a series of other attributes. It could be said that he could master it with just a little bit. This kind of terrifying talent was only seen once in 1,000 years. No, once in 10,000 years. It was unexpected that the first disciple that Tianyang had taken in after his rebirth would have such a talent. If this kind of talent was known by others, it would definitely cause countless people to be greedy, covetous, and even murderous. Although there was no news that the Nine Nether Saint Body could be taken away, just a little bit of hope was enough to make countless people greedy. Well, the seal on Yuhan's body is very unusual. Presumably, the reason why she burst out the power of the Nine Nether Saint Body this time was because of the opening of her Sea of Qi. Tianyang shook his head and chuckled. In that very short period of time, almost in an instant, Tianyang saw that Ling Yuhan had the Nine Nether Saint Body. Now, the seal had unleashed its power again, completely suppressing the power of the Nine Nether Saint Body. Therefore, even if Tianyang checked, he would not be able to see it. If the power of the soul at the peak of the heavenly completion realm was like this, let alone other people. Of course, if he was determined to check, Tianyang could still see it. But would Tianyang? Yuhan has cultivated the Ice Emperor's heavenly sword skill. The Sea of Qi that she has opened is 10 feet bigger than the Ice Emperor's. A Sea of Qi of 900 feet is almost enough to enter the list of the top geniuses in the Tianshao continent since ancient times. Not only is the Nine Nether Saint Body powerful, but my disciple's talent is also extraordinary. Tianyang chuckled and sensed that the fluctuations next door were gradually calming down. He closed his eyes and entered a state of cultivation. Ling Yuhan wanted to open up her Qi Sea and step into the first level of the Bright Qi realm. As for him, he wanted to open up another Qi Sea and step into the second level of the Bright Qi realm. The reason why Tianyang didn't practice it before was that he was afraid that his Sea of Qi would be too overbearing and rob Ling Yuhan of the spiritual Qi of heaven and earth that she used to open up her Sea of Qi. Now, Ling Yuhan had already opened up her Sea of Qi, and it was at the peak of the 900 feet Sea of Qi. Naturally, Tianyang did not need to continue to worry. The speed at which a Sea of Qi of this level could absorb the spiritual Qi of heaven and earth was extremely terrifying. Of course, it was much slower than his 100 feet Sea of Qi. After opening the first Sea of Qi, it will be much easier to open the second one. But I don't know what will happen after I open up the second Sea of Qi. Tianyang's lips curled into a smile. Then, his true yuan began to circulate. The spiritual Qi of heaven and earth and the surroundings began to rush into Tianyang's body. The Sea of Qi continued to fluctuate. Tianyang's Qi began to rise steadily. Soon, the limit of the first level of the Bright Qi realm was reached by Tianyang. Next, it was time to open up the second Sea of Qi and step into the second level of the Bright Qi realm. Tianyang took a deep breath. Then, according to the cultivation method of the divine desolate heaven spirit art, he began to open up the Sea of Qi. The divine desolate heavenly spirit art was a cultivation technique personally created by Tianyang. Its power was incomparably terrifying, and the difficulty of opening a second Qi Sea was largely dependent on the cultivation technique. With a terrifying cultivation method like the divine desolate heaven spirit art, Tianyang could easily open it up. 1 minute, 2 minutes after 3 minutes, Tianyang suddenly opened his eyes. His Qi exploded once again. The majestic true yuan vibrated rapidly. The objects around him seemed to be trembling as well. This was just Tianyang's true yuan vibrating involuntarily. Yet it affected the objects around him. Opening up the second sea of Qi at the second level of the bright Qi realm is actually so easy? Tianyang looked at his palm in disbelief. The power that surged out from his body meant that Tianyang had indeed reached the second level of the bright Qi realm. Moreover, my true yuan has not only doubled. With the opening of the second sea of Qi, the quality of my true yuan has increased by a lot. It has been purified and condensed a lot. I'm afraid that just the power of my true yuan alone is enough to crush experts at the fourth or fifth level of the bright Qi realm. Tianyang said in shock. He was not like Ling Yuhan, who had a unique physique like the nine nether saint body. The body of the head of the Tian family, Tianyang, was indeed that of an ordinary person. The only special thing about him was that he was born with a crippled meridian. Well, it's a good thing for me to have a strong cultivation. This sea of Qi is worthy of its name. It has such an effect, Tianyang exclaimed in admiration. Then, he continued to cultivate in seclusion to consolidate his cultivation. As the master and disciple continued to cultivate, they occasionally went out to do missions. At the same time, they also found a few fools to rob the power of their martial souls. The month passed by quickly. Ling Yuhan had the nine nether saint body. Although it was sealed, the 90-foot sea of Qi was not to be trifled with. With only the cultivation of the first level of the bright Qi realm, Ling Yuhan was almost invincible in the inner sanctum. Her style was only slightly inferior to that of her master, Tianyang. Therefore, when Yang Xiao refused to admit defeat and came knocking on their doors several times, Ling Yuhan directly took action and suppressed the 13th disciple of the inner sanctum, who had once injured her. Therefore, Ling Yuhan was given a slot to enter the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land. Tomorrow is the opening day of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land. Standing in the middle of the soaring cloud sect's intersect, a middle-aged elder who was at the 7th level of the bright Qi realm said loudly as he looked around at the crowd. The Blood Soul sect has joined forces with the Wolf Tiger sect and other sects to squeeze out Soaring Cloud sect slot. I hope that you will be able to gain something in the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land and defeat the 4 sects before the next opening of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land. The middle-aged man said loudly. Hearing this, everyone agreed. Tianyang and Ling Yuhan stood in the front row and looked at the middle-aged man who was mobilizing the inner sanctum. Then, they turned their eyes and saw a young man who was carrying a sword on his left. The white robe of the inner sanctum of the Soaring Cloud sect fluttered in the wind. He had a handsome face, and a sharp aura burst out from his body. His cultivation of the 5th level of the bright Qi realm surpassed everyone present and was second only to the elder who was mobilizing the inner sanctum. This person was the most prestigious person in the inner sanctum of the Soaring Cloud sect. Chapter 106. Yi Zhanling. When Tianyang saw this person, his eyes narrowed. This person's talent might be weaker than his and Ling Yuhan's. However, this person's spirit and willpower were extremely strong. Even if his talent was only above average, if he had the opportunity in the future, his achievements would not be a small matter. The Lingyun School is actually able to produce such a person. Not bad. Tianyang praised in his heart. He had always heard of Yi Zhanling, the #1 inner disciple. Now that he had seen him, it was indeed true. There are countless treasures in the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land, and the spiritual Qi is abundant. However, there are also many dangers. Not only are there dangers in the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land, but there are also dangers from other sections. Therefore, I, Elder Wu, am responsible for your safety outside the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land. However, the dangers in the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land are not from the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land. They are from your opponents. They are from the other sects, especially the 4 great sects. Elder Wu said with a serious expression. Hearing this, everyone's heart skipped a beat. Indeed, the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land was a mystery land, and it was important for the sects to become stronger. If they could grow stronger in the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land, it would be a great help to their sections. However, if they could kill the geniuses from the other sects, it would be a great help to their sects as well. People's hearts were sinister, and they had to be cautious. That's all I have to say. Everything depends on your performance in the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land. Elder Wu said loudly. After that, he led everyone on a giant eagle and headed towards the hidden dragon ancient land. At the same time, many disciples and elders from the other sects in the Arctic state, and even the neighboring sects were heading towards the hidden dragon ancient land. Even if the level of this ancient mystery land was not high, it was still a major event that could stir up a storm in the entire Snowgale state and the surrounding areas. There are many treasures in the hidden dragon ancient land, but there are also many dangers. I want to make the dissipating pill, but the elixir pavilion in Yun City is still lacking. There are many herbs that I have not found. Perhaps I can find them all in the hidden dragon ancient land. Tianyang sat cross-legged on the eagle's back with his eyes slightly narrowed. He felt the fierce wind blowing past his cheeks, but his body remained motionless. Ling Yuhan, who was next to him, also looked nervous. Tianyang smiled when he saw this. Although there are many dangers in this dragon-hidden ancient land, there are also many opportunities. Given your strength, even if you cannot stand out, you should be able to protect yourself. If you really can't do it, then this is a command medallion that I refined in the past month. It contains the power of my 3 full-powered attacks. If you encounter a crisis that you can't resolve, then use your true essence to activate it. No one below the 6th level of the Bright Chi realm can withstand it. Tianyang smiled faintly. He did not care about the 28 inner disciples beside him at all. He took out the attack token that he had refined from his interspatial bag and handed it to Ling Yuhan. These words weren't false. Although the attack token that Tianyang had refined could only be used 3 times and would be scrapped after it was used, each attack contained Tianyang's full strength. The first attack was Tianyang's Flowing Cloud Sword. The second attack was the peak level of the Flowing Cloud Sword concept. The third attack was the most powerful, Tianyang's strongest move, the first form of the Sky Peak Sword Art. Even though he had already pushed his martial soul's power to the extreme, and even executed the Blood Fiend Palm, which was no weaker than a profound rank, peerless martial skill, he still died under the second attack of that level. The third attack was even more so. Tianyang said that no one below the 6th level of the Qi realm could withstand it, but in reality, he had underestimated it. After all, it was a heaven-class middle-class sword art. The first attack is the weakest, but it is enough to deal with an average 4th level Bright Chi realm. The 2nd, 5th, 3rd, and 6th level Bright Chi realm cultivators will be able to withstand and even injure them. Tianyang warned. This disciple of his was the closest person to him since he had come to this world. Even if Ling Yuhan only had an average talent, Tianyang had to ensure her safety. Tianyang had spent a lot of effort to engrave his attack into the token. For this, Tianyang had spent more than a week's effort. After all, Tianyang's main job was martial arts and alchemy. He did not know much about weapon forging. Thank you, Master. Ling Yuhan was pleasantly surprised when he received the token that was filled with a tyrannical offensive aura. A deep sense of gratitude welled up in his heart. Tianyang had spent a lot of effort to make this for her. Master has been so good to me. I must repay him. From now on, I will follow Master. Ling Yuhan's face flushed red. She said firmly in her heart. She did not realize that her last sentence was no different from giving her body to Master. But at this moment, an untimely voice sounded. A 6th level Bright Chi realm cultivator can withstand and even injure him? Tianyang, it's true that your talent isn't weak, but you're just a piece of trash who only awakened a low-grade yellow ranked martial spirit. Martial spirit determines a person's true talent. Even if your comprehension of martial arts is not bad, your martial arts talent is trash. What's the use? Moreover, you are only at the 2nd level of the Bright Chi realm. How dare you speak so arrogantly? This token is not worth it. A young man stood up and looked down at Tianyang from above as he mocked. Then, the young man snuck a glance at Ling Yuhan, and a look of lust flashed across his eyes. Ling Yuhan's level of beauty was something he naturally coveted. Therefore, Tianyang was filled with jealousy towards Ling Yuhan's master, who was close to Ling Yuhan. Oh, hearing this, Tianyang raised his eyelids and looked at the young man. His heart did not waver. He only smiled. was this fifth-level bright Qi realm cultivator's name. Then, what are you trying to say? Tianyang smiled. Hearing this, the young man was stunned. Then, his face darkened. In his opinion, Tianyang was only at the second level of the bright Qi realm with trash talent. But Tianyang did not even know his name. One must know that he was ranked 5th on the stone wall of the inner sect. Oof. A second-level bright Qi realm cultivator dares to say that his attack can match a 6th-level bright Qi realm cultivator? Aren't you afraid of being exposed? It just so happens that this eagle needs some time to reach the hidden dragon ancient grounds. Why don't I spend some time teaching you what it means to keep a low profile? The young man snorted. The inner energy of the 5th level of the bright Qi realm circulated rapidly. It was as if he was about to attack. If you can break this move of mine, then I will admit that you have the ability to match a 6th level bright Qi realm cultivator. The young man said slowly. Although he said that, he was laughing coldly in his heart. In his opinion, Tianyang could match Qinshan at most. Not to mention him. Wait a moment, Tianyang will definitely not be able to do anything to his attack. This way, Tianyang's master would be humiliated in front of Ling Yuhan. Ling Yuhan would definitely be disappointed in Tianyang and fall into his arms. If you don't say anything, then I will take it that you agree. Take my fist. Low-grade mystic class, flaming fist. The young man roared. Hearing this, the faces of the spectators changed. They all cursed in their hearts. Shameless. Tianyang was 3 levels lower than the young man. But this young man actually used a low-grade mystic class martial skill. Not only was he bullying the weak, he was even shameless enough to launch a sneak attack. You don't speak fast, but your attack speed is not slow. But it's too weak. Tianyang chuckled and casually pointed his finger. Telepathic finger sword. A ray of light flashed. The sharp ray of light instantly pierced through the young man's flaming fist, completely shattering it. In the next moment, the ray of light even drew a line across the young man's throat. Small droplets of blood seeped out. The young man's face suddenly became pale. His neck was injured. In other words, Chapter 107. Idiot. Yang Xiong sneered when he saw this. This 5th-ranked youth couldn't even beat him, but he was defeated by Tianyang in a few punches and kicks. Now, after a month, Tianyang's strength must have improved. Even Yang Xiong would not be able to last more than a few rounds against Tianyang. In the entire Soaring Cloud sect, only the number 1 inner disciple, Yi Zhanling, could compete with Tianyang. In the end, rank 5 was an idiot. He had taken a fancy to Tianyang's disciple and even provoked Tianyang. It seemed like Tianyang was lucky that he did not kill rank 5 with a single finger. Tianyang, you bastard, you are asking for death. Holong's neck was scratched by Tianyang's finger. The veins on his face were bulging. He could not react in time. If Tianyang wanted to kill him, Tianyang could have easily cut his neck when he broke his flaming fist. Shut up. We have not even reached the hidden dragon ancient land, and you are already fighting among yourselves. What will happen when we reach the hidden dragon ancient land? The hidden dragon ancient land is an ancient mystery land with many sects participating in it. It is fine if you embarrass yourself in front of your own sect, but if you embarrass yourself in front of other sects, it will be more than that. You might even lose your life. Elder Wu, who was sitting on the eagle's head and directing the direction, sensed the movement behind him. He turned his head and shouted angrily. Hearing this, Holong, who had just become furious, immediately became listless. Elder Wu was at Clear Chi Realm Stage 7. Holong, who is only at Clear Chi Realm Stage 5, would not be able to withstand even one attack from Elder Wu. In Sky Cloud's continent, strength was everything. Strong cultivators were respected. Before, he had thought he was a strong cultivator, so he had humiliated Tianyang. Now, after Tianyang had taught him a lesson, he had been taught a lesson by an even stronger cultivator. Even though Holong was arrogant and unruly, he could only sit down obediently. However, he glared furiously at Tianyang, as though he was about to spit fire. At this moment, Yi Zhanling recalled the battle that happened in the blink of an eye, and his heart trembled. What? However, The people who understood Tianyang's strength were in the minority. Most people did not know about Tianyang's battle record. After Tianyang defeated Yang Xiao, the battle between him and Yang Xiong was not a formal duel. It was just a few moves, although it could be said that Tianyang's strength could be seen from it. However, the news was not widespread. Most people's understanding of Tianyang was still stuck at the time, when Tianyang killed Chen Shan and 7 people with one sword strike more than a month ago. Although that sort of strength was equally terrifying, it was simply too mythical. Naturally, many people were unwilling to believe it. This was the case for the 5th level of the Bright Qi realm. However, the result of disbelief was obvious to all. Yi Zhanling looked at Tianyang in shock. Although he had heard of Tianyang, he did not put it to heart. However, this Tianyang's strength was actually so terrifying. Previously, Holong, who was ranked 5th, did not use his full strength. He did not even use his martial soul. He only used his Bright Qi realm cultivation and a profound rank martial skill. However, if Holong did not use his full strength, Tianyang did not use it either. Yi Zhanling knew that Tianyang's strongest skill was the sword, just like him. However, Tianyang's previous attack was a finger technique. Just one finger was enough to instantly kill Holong, who had used all of his true essence and profound rank martial skill and at least 80% of his strength. This kind of strength was terrifying. I never thought that in the few months that I was away on a mission, the sect would have another super genius. Yi Zhanling looked deeply at Tianyang and said in a low voice, "If this is the case, we can escape from the oppression of the 4 major sects in the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land." Among the major sects in the Arctic state, the Soaring Cloud sect was the strongest. However, although the Blood Soul sect was an evil sect, they were only slightly weaker. In this opening of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land, the 4 major sects that were going against the Soaring Cloud sect were the top sects in the Arctic state. One of them was even from another country. These 4 sects were all top sects in the 9th grade sects. Once they joined forces, the Soaring Cloud sect would be at a disadvantage even though they were stronger than each of them. After all, although there was a difference between the 9th grade sects, the difference was usually not that big. Unless the Soaring Cloud sect had 3 Origin Transformation Realm experts and became an 8th grade sect, they would not be afraid of the combined oppression of the 4 major sections. However, there was no such thing now. However, Yi Zhanling saw hope from Tianyang. However, for the Tianji Sword Emperor, this hope was too small. The eagle's speed was not slow. Furthermore, the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land was not too far away from the Soaring Cloud sect. After killing Ho Long with the telepathic sword finger, Tianyang was not bored for long before he felt a vibration coming from the eagle. It was obvious that the eagle had arrived. The 30 Soaring Cloud sect inner disciples slowly stood up. Ho Long, who had been lightly injured by Tianyang, also stood up. He glared at Tianyang with hatred and jumped off the eagle. After the 30 disciples and Elder Wu had all landed, Fei Ying let out a long cry and flapped his wings to fly away. The 30 disciples and the elder all stood up straight and looked at the crowd in front of them. The Hidden Dragon Ancient Land was the largest ancient mystery land in the area. As long as one was qualified to participate, they would all come. Some of the weaker sects were not even in the eyes of the Soaring Cloud sect. Their strongest disciple might not even be as strong as Ho Long. Therefore, there was no need to pay attention to such a sect. However, the people of the Soaring Cloud sect were most concerned about. The 4 great sects were the Snow Mountain sect, the Wolf Tiger sect, the Earth and Way sect, and the strongest and most domineering Blood Soul sect. Among the 4 great sects, the Blood Soul sect, the Wolf Tiger sect, and the Earth and Way sect were all from the Arctic state. However, the Snow Mountain sect was from the neighboring country of the Arctic state, the Sky Moon country. Although such a force was a little special, it was not enough to make the Soaring Cloud sect afraid. However, if the Snow Mountain sect and the Blood Soul sect joined forces, it would be a headache for the Soaring Cloud sect. After all, the Snow Mountain sect had nothing to do with the Arctic state. Even if the Snow Mountain sect's disciples targeted the Soaring Cloud sect's disciples in the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land, the Soaring Cloud sect could not do anything about it. However, it was the same on the other hand. The corners of Tianyang's mouth twitched as his indifferent gaze swept across the various sections. Apart from the four great sects and the Soaring Cloud sect, there were many other people in the mountain range that hid the hidden dragon ancient land. In total, there were hundreds of them. At this moment, an evil and creepy laugh came from in front of them. A middle-aged man wearing a blood-red robe with a creepy curse carved on his face slowly walked out from the Blood Soul sex group. The person said with a weird smile on his face, "The people from the Soaring Cloud sect. You're finally here. How is it? Does it feel good to have 20 spots deducted?" Hearing this, not only the 30 young Soaring Cloud sect disciples, but even Elder Wu's face darkened. This matter was the Soaring Cloud sect's sore spot. However, this guy actually came out and lifted it up again. Without a doubt, this was a slap to their faces. Ew. Elder Wu's face turned cold as he stared at the middle-aged man in front of him. The true origin in his body surged as if he was going to attack at any moment. Seeing this, a hint of fear flashed through the middle-aged man's eyes. However, he still sneered. "That's true. What's the Soaring Cloud sect? It's the magnanimous leader of the Arctic States sects. Isn't it great that such a sect contributed 20 spots to the Arctic States' benefit?" The middle-aged man laughed maniacally. Hearing this, Elder Wu's face darkened again. His fingernails almost dug into his flesh. At this moment, a young voice slowly sounded. "How many spots did my Soaring Cloud sect lose? Your Blood Soul sect? No. The four great sects will... How many people will die?" Chapter 108. The number of people you lose will be the same as the number of people from your four sections. Tianyang's faint laughter resounded across the mountain range. Everyone was silent for a moment before they turned to look at Tianyang with mocking gazes. Did he know who he was talking about? The Earth and Way sect, the Snow Mountain sect, the Wolf Tiger sect, and the Blood Soul sect were all the top sects among the 9th-ranked sects. They had many talented disciples. Before Tianyang made his move, they could not see how high Tianyang's cultivation level was. However, they could tell from his young face. Tianyang's age was definitely not old. In the world of cultivation, except for a few monstrous geniuses, age and strength were usually linked. If one was not old, then one's strength would definitely be weak. If he was not strong, then he dared to say such arrogant words in front of such a powerful sect. He said that the number of people who lost their spots would be the same as the number of people who would die. In the eyes of the crowd, this brat had clearly lost his mind due to anger. That was why he would say such a thing. Oh! Hearing this, the red-robed, middle-aged man narrowed his eyes and looked at Tianyang. Your Lingyun sect is not bad to have such a bold disciple. However, in a situation where you're not strong enough to speak such arrogant words, you're courting death. The red-robed, middle-aged man sneered. Hearing this, Elder Wu's face darkened. Chow, do you believe that if you say one more word, I will kill you right here and now? Hearing this, the red-robed, middle-aged man's pupils shrank, and he fell silent. His cultivation level was only at the peak of the Clear Chi realm. Facing Elder Wu, who was at the Clear Chi realm of the Clear Chi realm, there was no way he could fight back. However, the red-robed, middle-aged man and Elder Wu had the same cultivation level. Although he was afraid of Elder Wu, the disciples behind Elder Wu were different. Humph. So, the Lingyun sect, the leader of the sects in the Arctic state, only has this kind of daring and reckless trash? A sharp sneer came from behind the red-robed, middle-aged man. A young man wearing the same red robe came to the red-robed, middle-aged man's side and looked at Tianyang mockingly. Kid, your courage is not bad, but how high is your cultivation? Even if it's your Lingyun school's strongest, Yi Zhanling, you wouldn't dare to say such words. You're just a piece of trash who only knows how to show off. The blood-robed youth sneered. His entire body was filled with blood chi. From the aura he exuded, one could tell that this youth was also at the peak of the bright chi realm. Compared to Yi Zhanling, who was half a step into the 6th stage, he was only a hair's breadth away. Hey, that's the Blood Soul sect's strongest genius of this generation, Chao Kuangying. Chao Kuangying is the most powerful person in this generation of the Blood Soul sect. He's only 18 years old, but he's already learned the Blood Soul Sect's middle profound level martial skill. He's even learned the high profound level martial skill. Plus, the martial spirit he awakened is a low-grade mystic martial spirit. With the three added together, even among the countless young cultivators in the Arctic state, Chao Kuangying is one of the best. This kid has offended Chao Kuangying. He's courting death. Seeing the blood-robed youth appear, some of the disciples from the smaller sects were shocked and then exclaimed. In the end, in order to flatter Chao Kuangying, the disciple from the smaller sects ridiculed Tianyang. After all, Tianyang was too young. With such a face, he should be around 15 years old. What kind of cultivation could a 15-year-old have? Originally, in my opinion, a trash like you is not worthy of my attention. Chao Kuangying's eyes narrowed slightly. He seemed to enjoy the exclamations of the disciples from the smaller sections. He didn't even look at Tianyang and sneered. However, your stupidity has successfully attracted my attention. Since you're a disciple of the Soaring Cloud sect and dare to be so arrogant, then I'll represent the Soaring Cloud sect to teach you the immensity of heaven and earth. Break your own legs, and I can spare your life. Otherwise, Chao Kuangying sneered. Hearing this, Tianyang's eyes moved slightly. He just couldn't stand the way the Blood Soul sect did things. When he saw that Chao Kuangying's cultivation was at the peak of the Bright Chi realm, the corner of his mouth curled into a smile. Bright Chi realm level 5 was nothing to Tianyang, who had reached the peak of the Bright Chi realm level 2. Once unleashed, Tianyang would only need to use the flowing cloud sword art that he had improved a few times, or directly use his strongest move, the Sky Extreme Sword Art, to instantly kill Chao Kuangying. Someone who could be easily killed by Tianyang was actually asking him to break his legs? Ridiculous. Extremely ridiculous. Kid, how dare you ignore me? Seeing that Tianyang only smiled and ignored him, Chao Kuangying's face turned gloomy. At this moment, the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land had not opened yet. He still had a lot of energy left. Since you're courting death, then don't blame me. Blood Chi Palm. The blood chi that permeated Chao Kuangying's body suddenly condensed into Chao Kuangying's hand. The true yuan of the Bright Chi realm level 5 surged in his body and condensed into a powerful force. He directly attacked Tianyang. Seeing this, Tianyang slightly squinted his eyes and snorted. The true yuan in his body circulated. Since Chao Kuangying was courting death, then don't blame him. Chao Kuangying, you lost to me last time. Forget it now. With me here, you still dare to attack the disciples of the Soaring Cloud sect? At this moment, a cold snort was heard. Yi Zhanling suddenly stretched out his hand, and the true yuan of the half-step Bright Chi realm level 6 exploded. In the next moment, the blood chi in Chao Kuangying's body suddenly stagnated. Then, Chao Kuangying turned his head and looked at Yi Zhanling's angry eyes. He snorted. However, he still withdrew the blood chi palm. A year ago, Chao Kuangying and Yi Zhanling had fought. At that time, their cultivation levels were about the same. However, Yi Zhanling still defeated Chao Kuangying. Now, Yi Zhanling's cultivation level was slightly higher than Chao Kuangying's. Once they fought, Chao Kuangying might not be his match. Therefore, Chao Kuangying was extremely afraid of Yi Zhanling. I'll let you live for a few more hours. When we enter the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land, I don't believe that you can still be together with your senior brother Yi Zhanling. Chao Kuangying snorted and withdrew his right hand that was about to attack. He coldly looked at Tianyang, and his eyes were filled with endless killing intent. Hearing this, Tianyang calmly smiled. If you dare to come, I'll accompany you. Hearing this, Chao Kuangying's face suddenly twitched. He then stomped his feet and returned to the group of Blood Soul sect disciples. At this moment, the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land, which was surrounded by many sects, suddenly shone brightly. The shocking light almost covered the entire mountain range. An unparalleled aura burst out. It was so strong that even the high-level Bright Chi realm cultivators could only be suppressed. It directly caused the movements of the crowd to stop. Then, the eyes of the leaders of the various sects surged with a hint of fanaticism. Chapter 109. The hidden dragon ancient land has opened. All of you go in quickly. A door of light opened from the originally ordinary little basin in the mountains. Upon seeing this, the leading elders of the various large sects were all startled. Soon after, they shouted out loudly. Hearing this, the disciples of the various sects immediately reacted. They circulated their true origin and rushed into the light door. The disciples of the Soaring Cloud sect were not slow to react. They immediately used their own skills and rushed into the light door as fast as they could. After 15 minutes, other than the elders of the various sects, there were no other disciples outside the light door. After another 15 minutes, the light door slowly closed. This is the hidden dragon ancient land. In a flash, Tianyang arrived on a field. He looked around and was shocked. The spiritual energy here is much more abundant than the outside world. If I cultivate here, I will be able to open my third sea of qi in less than a week. Tianyang was shocked for a while before he recovered. In his previous life, he had seen many secret realms like this. Even if Tianyang was shocked, he did not need to be for too long. Then, Tianyang remembered what Chao Kuangying of the Blood Soul sect said to him before he entered the light door. Kid, in the hidden dragon ancient land, no one can help you. You are dead meat. Then, Chao Kuangying stepped into the light door with him and arrived at the hidden dragon ancient land. Yuhan is gone. It seems like the space in the hidden dragon ancient land is not very stable. Otherwise, I would not have been lost so easily, Tianyang muttered. Then, he took a few steps forward. Suddenly, his heart skipped a beat, and he looked at a piece of land beside him. There was nothing special about the land. However, on this piece of land, there was a medicinal herb that was emitting a gentle aura. A spiritual herb. It is the 3 spiritual herb that can be used to make the vitality pill. This hidden dragon ancient land is not bad. Tianyang smirked. He stretched out his hand and sucked the spiritual herb over. This herb was called the 3 spiritual herb, and it was one of the herbs that Tianyang lacked. Then, something unexpected happened. Roar. A furious roar came from Tianyang's side. Tianyang's expression changed slightly. In the next moment, a huge magical beast rushed out and arrived in front of Tianyang. Seeing this magical beast, Tianyang was momentarily stunned. Then he grinned and said, "It's actually a second-rank magical beast. It's just a stalk of 3 spiritual grass, yet it has a second-rank magical beast guarding it. This hidden dragon ancient land is indeed filled with danger and opportunity. However, this small crocodile is not enough to eat me." Tianyang chuckled and turned his wrist to put the 3 spiritual herbs back into his interspatial bag. Subsequently, the wind flame sword on his back popped out and landed in Tianyang's hand. In the next moment, Tianyang suddenly stomped his feet and jumped a step back. At this moment, the crocodile's sharp claws slapped the place where Tianyang had been standing. With a slap, the soil was smashed and mud splattered everywhere. This small crocodile's physical strength is really impressive. Normal second-rank magical beasts are not this strong. It seems that it has a lot to do with the rich spiritual energy in the hidden dragon ancient land. Tianyang muttered to himself. Then, he smiled and landed on the ground. Using the dragon suppression step, he charged towards the crocodile. Roar! The crocodile roared and a powerful aura exploded from its body. However, Tianyang did not care. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of the crocodile. In the next moment, he slashed out with the wind flame sword. Chi chi chi. The sharp edge of the wind flame sword slashed on the crocodile's scales, but did not cause any damage. Instead, it created a series of sparks. At this moment, the crocodile suddenly reacted. With a roar, it waved its huge claws and charged towards Tianyang. Your defense is not bad. However, you are still 100 years too early to do anything to me. Using the dragon suppression step, Tianyang's figure immediately retreated to 1 foot behind the crocodile. This distance allowed him to narrowly avoid the crocodile's claws. However, the crocodile was still within the range of Tianyang's attack. This level of familiarity with the movement and control of the battle was something that even Elder Wu could not compare to. All right, the warm-up is over. This small crocodile, it's time to say goodbye. Tianyang chuckled. Light gathered on the wind flame, sword in his hand. True Yuan surged, and the heavenly sword was attached to it. In the next moment, the flowing cloud sword technique was unleashed. A resplendent sword light erupted from the flaming wind sword. With the flaming wind sword, as well as the strength of the heavenly sun, this ordinary drifting cloud sword technique wasn't any weaker than the drifting cloud sword at the start. In the next moment, under the crocodile's incredulous gaze, the sword radiance cut through the crocodile's body, splitting it in half. Blood splattered everywhere, dyeing the ground red. Tianyang did not bother with it. He kicked off the ground and left the area. Dealing with a Class 2 demonic beast that was only equivalent to a second or third stage Bright Chi Realm cultivator, Tianyang did not need to put in much effort. At this moment, Ling Yuhan's face was serious as she looked at the person who was approaching her with evil intentions. This person was a disciple of the Earthen Way sect. Moreover, he was not weak. He was at the 4th stage Bright Chi Realm. With this level of cultivation, even among the participants of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Lands, he was considered to be one of the top few. Little girl, the Soaring Cloud sect is just a declining sect. What's so good about joining a sect like that? Why don't you join the Earthen Way sect? Then let this big brother take good care of you. The Earthen Way sect disciple laughed lecherously. There was no doubt that the beautiful face of the Soaring Cloud sect was extremely attractive to men. Moreover, Ling Yuhan was only at the 1st stage Bright Chi Realm. In the eyes of this 4th stage Bright Chi Realm Earthen Way sect disciple, a cultivator of this level would not be able to resist him at all. Thinking of Ling Yuhan's expression after being easily defeated by him, the Earthen Way sect disciple laughed wickedly. At this moment, Ling Yuhan sighed softly. Although I rarely kill people, I should be able to kill this kind of person, right? Master said that in a secret realm like the Hidden Dragon Ancient Lands, the biggest threat is not the demonic beast traps here, but the people who come with you. If that's the case, then let's test out the power of the Ice Emperor heavenly sword technique that Master gave me. Ling Yuhan suddenly raised her head. The Jade Sea sword in her hand glowed, and in the next moment, she charged forward. A layer of frost suddenly condensed on the Jade Sea sword. Seeing this, the Earthen Way sect disciple laughed coldly. A 1st stage Bright Chi Realm cultivator wants to resist? Suppress him. A giant tortoise martial soul phantom appeared behind the Earthen Way sect disciple. At this moment, Ling Yuhan shouted, Ice Emperor Heavenly Sword Technique, 1st style, Ice Spirit. In the next moment, a ray of light suddenly exploded from the Jade Sea sword, directly freezing the Earthen Way sect disciple, who was caught off guard, into an ice sculpture. He never would have thought that Ling Yuhan, a 1st stage Bright Chi Realm cultivator, would have such strength. He didn't even have time to attack before he was killed by Ling Yuhan's sword. Chapter 110. Kid, hand over that herb. Otherwise, don't blame me for killing you. A loud shout came from in front of Tianyang. Hearing this, Tianyang, who had just obtained a herb, raised his head and looked at the person. He was wearing a blood-red robe and had a bloody aura around him. Without a doubt, this person was from a Blood Soul sect. You are the kid from the Soaring Cloud sect who dared to provoke senior brother Chao, Kuang-Ying? If that's the case, hee. I don't care if you hand over the herb or not. I will kill you. The Blood Soul sect disciple sneered. At this moment, Tianyang smiled slightly. He pinched one of the roots of the ginseng with 2 fingers and lifted it up. This is a rare high-grade herb, the Golden Spirit Ginseng. Aren't you guys from a Snow Mountain sect, the Wolf Tiger sect, and an unknown sect afraid of being robbed by the Blood Soul sect? Tianyang laughed. The Golden Spirit Ginseng was one of the herbs used to refine the energy dissipation pill. In terms of value, it was second only to the 3 main herbs. If its value was calculated in gold coins, it could be sold for nearly 1 million gold coins. It was almost the same value as Tianyang's energy recovery pill. Such a herb would naturally arouse the greed of some cultivators in the Qi illumination realm. Hearing this, the Blood Soul sect disciple's expression changed. He looked around. Sure enough, in the next moment, 3 disciples walked out of the forest. Among them, the one with the highest cultivation and the oldest suppressed the greed in his eyes and looked at Tianyang coldly. "How did you find us? You don't have to worry about that." Tianyang smiled slightly. "If you guys didn't come out, the golden spirit ginseng would have been taken away by the Blood Soul sect disciple. The Blood Soul sect's escape technique is well known. Although the 3 of you are not weak, it would be difficult for you to catch up with the Blood Soul sect disciple." Hearing this, the Snow Mountain sect disciple's expression changed. Then he said, "Then what do you want? Snow Mountain sect, Wolf Tiger sect, and that person over there, please listen to me." Before Tianyang could reply, the Blood Soul sect disciple's expression changed, and he used a true essence sound transmission. "The disciples of the Lingyun school are our greatest enemies. Outside, we have joined forces to oppress the Lingyun school. Inside, even if we don't join forces, we can't have internal strife in front of the Lingyun school disciples. So, let's join hands and kill this disciple of the Soaring Cloud sect first. Then, we'll think about how to split the golden spiritual ginseng." The disciple of the Blood Soul sect said eerily. Hearing this, the disciple of the Snow Mountain sect was stunned. Then he sneered. "That's right. How could this brat find such a precious medicinal material like the golden spirit ginseng? It's obviously for us. Didn't he say that he was going to kill the people of our 4 great sects? Then we will kill him in the hidden dragon ancient land." Not long after they entered, the person who spoke such arrogant words died. "I'm sure that the face of that elder from the Lingyun school will be very ugly." The disciple of the Snow Mountain sect laughed eerily. Hearing this, the disciples of the Wolf Tiger sect and the other unknown sects nodded their heads. From the looks of it, Tianyang was the weakest among the 5 competitors. They wanted to kill Tianyang, the weakest person who still had such a precious medicinal material like the golden spiritual ginseng. As for who would get the golden spiritual ginseng, they would think about it when the time came. Seeing that the few of them did not make any sound, but their lips were moving, it was obvious that they were communicating with each other. Tianyang did not bother to pay attention to them and only smiled. Just how powerful was his soul force? No matter what they were communicating with each other, he could hear them clearly. However, Tianyang already knew that this would happen. The 4 great sects had joined forces to oppress the Lingyun school. In other words, the disciples of the Lingyun school were moving targets in the hidden dragon ancient land. As long as they wanted to rely on any one of the 4 great sects, they would attack the disciples of the Lingyun school. It was not unexpected for Tianyang that the 4 of them would join forces. However, this was what Tianyang wanted, wasn't it? Tianyang smirked and sneered in his heart. If it was not for the fact that it would be troublesome to kill the disciples of the Blood Soul sect one by one after killing them, he would have already killed the disciples of the Blood Soul sect. Now that all of his enemies knew that he had the golden spiritual ginseng, Tianyang's plan had reached its first step. The next step was to kill all of them in one fell swoop. "Brat, how can a piece of trash like you own such a precious medicinal material like the golden spiritual ginseng? Go to hell." At this time, the 4 of them had finished communicating with each other. With a roar, the disciple of the Blood Soul sect rushed out. He channeled his true origin and charged towards Tianyang. Blood Chi Palm. Blood Chi suddenly condensed and exploded with boundless power. The disciple of the Blood Soul sect shouted, "Remember, the person who will kill you is the disciple of the Blood Soul sect, Deng Yulin." At this time, the disciples of the Snow Mountain sect and the Wolf Tiger sect also attacked. Blizzard Sky, Wolf Roar, Duangguang Palm. The 3 of them roared as the true origin in their bodies surged. For the golden spiritual ginseng, they had all used their full strength. These disciples were all at the 3rd level of the clear Chi realm. The strongest disciple of the Snow Mountain sect was at the 4th level of the clear Chi realm. This situation was even more urgent than when Tianyang was surrounded by 7 people in the Soaring Cloud sect. However, Tianyang was no longer the same as before. He was at the peak of the clear Chi realm level 2. He was much stronger than when he had just broken through to the clear Chi realm. A cold light flashed in Tianyang's eyes. The flaming wind sword in his hand suddenly exploded with a shocking light. In the next moment, he attacked. Sky Sword Technique, first form, Soaring Heavens. Soaring Heavens. This was the first form of the Sky Sword Technique. As the first move of the Heaven Tier Sword Art, Soaring Sky's sword possessed unparalleled terrifying power. Previously, Soaring Heavens was able to kill 7 disciples at the Clear Chi Realm, Level 1 or Level 2. Now, he could kill 4 disciples at the Clear Chi Realm, Level 3 or Level 4. Kill! The 5 of them roared at the same time. At this moment, the first form of the Sky Sword Technique, Soaring Heaven Sword Chi, was completed. Tianyang's eyes were solemn. The boundless Emperor's aura that came from the Tianji Sword Emperor was released from his body. It was as if a supreme emperor had descended. In an instant, the 4 disciples stopped in their tracks. However, the attack was still extremely fast and collided with Tianling's sword. There was no deafening collision, no dazzling light, and nothing that would appear in the eyes of the 4 disciples. The only thing that appeared was that the attacks of the 4 disciples were sliced apart by Tianyang like tofu. No! The eyes of the 4 disciples were shrouded in fear. How could a soaring cloud sect disciple at the peak of the Clear Chi realm release such a terrifying attack? However, no one could answer their question. In the next second, the 4 of them were swallowed by Soaring Heaven's sword. Before they died, they tried to save their lives with their martial spirits, but the Soaring Heaven's sword directly devoured all of their martial spirits. Chapter 111. Just one slash. Disciples from 3 big sects and 1 small sect. Among them, there was even a Clear Chi Realm Level 4 cultivator. Just like that, they were all killed by Tianyang in 1 slash. Even if the Ice Emperor was alive, he would not be able to snatch my herbs. How dare a few rank 9 sect disciples act so presumptuously in front of me? Tianyang chuckled and waved his hand. A suction force burst out from his palm and took all the interspatial bags from their waists. A total of 3,000 low-grade spiritual stones and 2 low-grade cosmic sabers. Useless. Furthermore, they're the weakest of the low-grade cosmic sabers. There are quite a lot of herbs. Unfortunately, they are all low-grade herbs. I'll just exchange them for some spiritual stones from the Soaring Cloud sect. With a slight movement of his soul power, Tianyang completed an inventory of his spoils of war. Then, he threw them into a space bag and continued on his way. This was only the outer area of the hidden dragon ancient land, and there were already rare herbs like the golden spiritual ginseng. If he went deeper, wouldn't there be mid-grade cosmic weapons? Although the wind flame sword that Tianyang had snatched from Wu Meng was a mid-grade artifact, it was the same as the low-grade artifacts that he had just snatched. It was one of the weakest mid-grade artifacts. If there were better materials, Tianyang would not mind upgrading the Flaming Wind Sword. However, if there were better mid-grade cosmic weapons, it would be even better. Normally, Clear Chi Realm cultivators would use low-grade cosmic weapons. Only a few geniuses or experts in the Clear Chi Realm would use mid-grade cosmic weapons. However, most of the disciples who participated in the fight for the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land had either low-grade or mid-grade cosmic weapons. Although Tianyang was not weak, the Flaming Wind Sword was still too weak. However, the Wind Flame Sword was still a little weak. Once it met a stronger mid-grade treasure, it could very well be damaged. The others must be heading towards the central area. According to the information that Yi Zhanling gave me, there seems to be some incredible cosmic weapons in the central area. Tianyang mumbled. Then, he used the dragon's subduing steps to increase his speed. In the blink of an eye, Tianyang had covered a distance of more than 10 meters. For a cultivator at the peak of the 2nd level of the Bright Chi realm, such a speed was unimaginable. Even a level 5 Clear Chi realm cultivator would not be able to move as fast as him. Kid, don't go too far. The Earthen Way sect disciple's face was filled with rage as he looked at the youth in front of him. Hearing this, Yi Zhanling's brows didn't even twitch as he lightly laughed. Your sect's elders are watching outside. It's not convenient for me to make a move. However, when we enter the Hidden Dragon Ancient Ground, Do you really think that the people from the Lingyun sect are all living bodhisattvas? Yi Zhanling, Yi Zhanling, Yi Zhanling, Yi Yi. Seeing this, the 3 level 4 clear Qi realm cultivators who were blocked by Yi Zhanling could not help but feel fear in their hearts. They knew Yi Zhanling's notoriety very well. Even the arrogant Chao Kuangying of the Blood Soul sect could only be slightly weaker than Yi Zhanling. Even if they worked together, they would not be as strong as Chao Kuangying. The 3 of us can deal with the ordinary soaring cloud sect's disciples. But if we meet Yi Zhanling, our chances of winning are less than 1 in 10,000. So, the strongest Earth and Way sect disciple took a few steps back and muttered to himself. He turned around and exchanged glances with the other 2 disciples beside him. Then, the true Yuan in his body began to circulate wildly. Run! In the next moment, the 3 of them immediately rushed out and ran in 3 different directions. They knew that if Yi Zhanling really attacked, they would not be able to stop him. However, if they ran together, all 3 of them would die. If they ran separately, only one of them would die. However, do you think that by running separately, 2 of you can survive? The corner of Yi Zhanling's mouth curled into a sneer. His dimensional bag moved, and a mid-grade long sword appeared in his hand. This sword was one of the few mid-grade long swords in the Soaring Cloud sect. The sword's body was decorated with dots of starlight. Therefore, this sword was named Star Scar Sword. High-grade, profound, level martial skill, 7 stars sword combo. Yi Zhanling roared, and a terrifying true Yuan burst out from his body. In the next moment, 3 dots of sword light emerged from the tip of the Star Scar Sword and turned into 3 terrifying sword chi. The sword chi speed far exceeded that of a human. In a few blinks of an eye, the 3 sword chi caught up with the 3 fleeing Earth and Way sect's disciples. What? You actually cultivated the 7-star sword combo to the level of 3-star sword combo. The leading youth turned his head and looked at the dazzling sword chi in shock. His face was full of shock. He then sighed and allowed the sword chi to pierce his neck. To be able to cultivate a high-grade, profound level martial skill to such a level, I did not die in vain. The youth's life force quickly disappeared. In the end, he only left behind this sentence and fell down with a loud bang. He did not use his martial spirit because he knew that Yi Zhanling had cultivated the 7-star sword combo to the 3-star sword combo. Then, even if he used his martial spirit, he would not be able to block it. This kind of gap was really too big. As for the remaining 2, it was naturally impossible for them to have a better ending than the strongest person. In fact, their ending was even earlier than the strongest person. Those 2 died under Yi Zhanling's sword. A trace of killing intent appeared on his face. Then, this trace of killing intent was replaced by some paleness. The 7-star sword combo was a high-grade, profound level martial skill. Generally speaking, only high-level cultivators above the 7th level of the Bright Chi realm could cultivate it. He was only at the half-step 6 stage, but he could barely use the 7-star sword combo. For him, the consumption was extremely large. However, Junior Tianyang is right. Since you dare to take away 20 spots from my Soaring Cloud sect, then how many people from your 4 sects will die? A trace of killing intent was released from Yi Zhanling's words. In the next moment, Yi Zhanling activated his true origin and continued to sweep through the forest. His destination was the same as Tianyang's. It was the center of the hidden dragon ancient land. However, compared to Tianyang, who had just been reborn and did not know the details, Yi Zhanling knew more. The center of the hidden dragon ancient land was the true essence of the secret realm. After killing a Snow Mountain sect disciple indifferently, Tianyang was expressionless. It seemed that the 4 sects hated the Soaring Cloud sect too much, or maybe it was because of Tianyang's previous words. These disciples of the 4 sects loved to crash into him like moths to a flame. At this moment, Tianyang's face suddenly changed. A strong wave of energy came from his side. Other than that, there were a few people who came with him. It was the wave of energy of the Soaring Cloud sect disciples. There are Soaring Cloud sect disciples fighting nearby. Tianyang raised his eyebrows. Then his body flashed as he activated the dragon, subduing steps. Immediately, he swept towards the direction of the wave of energy that came from the soul power. After a while, Tianyang saw the situation. There were 3 soaring cloud sect disciples. One of them was holding a huge dragon-shaped broadsword. The other 2 were covering for the person who was retreating. However, Tianyang's pupils shrank. He suddenly realized that behind the soaring cloud sect disciple who was holding the dragon-shaped broadsword, a person who was hiding in the dark had rushed out. Flowing cloud sword skill, flowing cloud shuttle. Chapter 112. Flowing cloud sword art, flowing cloud shuttle. Tianyang growled as the wind flame sword in his hand rose into the air and shot out. Flowing cloud shuttle belonged to the second stage of the flowing cloud sword art. It was a close-range attack and was much faster than a simple hand slash. Tianyang had used this move when he was hunting the silver lightning python. Now that the flowing cloud shuttle had been strengthened, it was much cleaner than when he had killed the silver lightning python. In just a flash, the person who had been hiding in the dark had his heart pierced by Tianyang's sword. He couldn't be more dead. What? At this moment, the young man with the dragon-shaped broadsword sensed the movement behind him. He looked at the Blood Soul sect disciple who had fallen to the ground in fear. His face changed. This person was only a few feet away from him. If this person wanted to kill him, it would be a piece of cake. If it wasn't for someone, not only would he have died, but he would also have lost the dragon-shaped broadsword that he had risked his life to obtain. Thinking of this, the young man's face turned pale. He felt a little scared. Then he saw the flying sword that had saved his life fall into the hands of someone above him. Looking closely, a trace of joy appeared on the young man's face. Senior brother Tianyang. Senior brother Tianyang? At this moment, the 2 young men who were trying their best to block the enemy's attack were stunned. Then, they became ecstatic. Senior brother Tianyang is here. You guys from the Blood Soul sect, prepare to die. Tianyang's cultivation was only at the peak of Clear Chi realm. Among the 30 disciples who had come to the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land, he was not considered the top. However, he had easily defeated Yang Xiong in private and killed Ho Long in front of more than 20 disciples. Tianyang is here. Hearing this, Yang Xiong, who had been frantically defending himself, suddenly trembled. His true yuan exploded and sent the Blood Soul sect disciple in front of him flying. He then turned around and said in surprise, "It's really you." At this moment, the 2 Blood Soul sect disciples who were fighting with Yang Xiong and the other disciple saw that the person with the dragon-shaped broadsword was still alive. Their faces darkened. Tianyang? Is it the Soaring Cloud sect disciple who dared to provoke Senior Brother? Not only did he provoke eldest Senior Brother, but he also destroyed our plan to seize the Dragon Saber. This Tianyang really deserves to die. The 2 Blood Soul sect disciples' faces were gloomy as they stared at the approaching Tianyang, their true essence madly condensing within their bodies. You're finally here. Yang Xiong hurried over. If you hadn't taken action in time, the Dragon Saber that was hard to snatch would have been gone. Brothers from the same sect should help each other. However, who can tell me what's going on? Tianyang waved his hand, indicating that Yang Xiong didn't need to thank him too much. Then, he looked at the 2 Blood Soul sect disciples and said in a deep voice. The 2 Blood Soul sect disciples were both at the 5th level of the Bright Chi realm. Although the Soaring Cloud School had 3 people, only Yang Xiong was at the 5th level of the Bright Chi realm. No wonder the battle was so intense. If not for Yang Xiong's strength, he would have been defeated by the 2 Bright Chi realm disciples. This is the 6th inner disciple, Zhang Chun, and this is the 12th inner disciple, Jin Xiong. They are both at the 4th level of the Bright Chi realm. Yang Xiong introduced them to Tianyang. Hearing this, Zhang Chun and Jin Xiong became nervous. Although Tianyang's current ranking was similar to theirs, they knew that he was strong. However, they all knew that with Tianyang's strength, it wouldn't be a problem for him to beat the 5 of them with one hand. The opponent is a bastard from the Blood Soul sect. We were exploring a small relic and had just found the Dragon Saber. Then, these 2 Blood Soul sect disciples rushed out and killed us. We were caught off guard and lost one of her junior brothers, Yang Xiong said angrily. Hearing this, Tianyang's face turned ugly. Someone from the Soaring Cloud School died? Moreover, he died at the hands of these two Blood Soul sect disciples. These two Blood Soul sect disciples are both at the 5th level of the Bright Chi realm. They could be ranked in the top 5 in the Blood Soul sect. One is called Deng Jia, and the other is called Shui Kuang. They are both difficult to deal with, Yang Xiong said in a low voice. Tianyang nodded slightly and looked at the dragon saber that had caused this fierce battle. The dragon saber was wide, almost as wide as a human head. Its entire body was golden, and at the edge of the saber there was a lifelike dragon head. It was as if the sharp blade was spat out from the dragon head. The appearance was not the main point. Tianyang sensed that the dragon saber emitted an aura that was no weaker than his flaming wind sword. In fact, it was even stronger. In other words, this dragon saber was a middle-grade, bejeweled weapon. No wonder the Blood Soul sect disciples fought so fiercely. For those of the Bright Chi realm, once they had a middle-grade bejeweled weapon, even if they could not display its full strength, it could still greatly increase their strength. This dragon saber is a middle-grade bejeweled weapon, Tianyang said. Hearing this, Yang Xiong, Zhang Chun, and Jin Xiong's faces changed. Middle-grade bejeweled weapon? The dragon saber that had caused them to fight was actually an ordinary middle-grade bejeweled weapon. However, even if it is a middle-grade bejeweled weapon, since it is in the hands of the Soaring Cloud sect disciples, it is not something that others can touch. Tianyang turned around and said coldly. He did not touch the dragon saber. He was a sword emperor and naturally used a sword. Although he had some knowledge of the saber Dao, he could only display his strongest strength with a sword. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Seeing this cold light, Shui Kuang and Deng Jia of the Blood Soul sect were shocked. What kind of eyes were these? That cold light was as cold as the 9 nether hell, without any emotion. Oomph. Tianyang, so what if you're not weak? You dare to provoke Senior Chao Kuangying, so you must die? Besides, you even killed my junior brother before this. Tianyang, prepare to die. Shui Kuang snorted, his blood-red robe fluttering. Then his true yuan surged, and Shui Kuang roared, martial spirit, blood drop, profound upper-grade martial skill. Baleful Blood Palm. Lu Jin has played the Baleful Blood Palm so many times, but you are still using it. Moreover, you are worse than Lu Jin. Tianyang sneered. The flaming wind sword trembled slightly. In the next moment, facing Shui Kuang's Baleful Blood Palm, which was formed by condensing the power of his martial spirit, Tianyang calmly made his move. A ray of sword light tore through the blood mist condensed by the Baleful Blood Palm, like a flash of light in the darkness. It tore through the entire sky, beautiful and magnificent. The aura of this sword was not strong, but this sword made everyone present stunned. In the next moment, the Baleful Blood Palm and the sword light collided. It did not even last a second before it was torn apart. The Baleful Blood Palm executed by Shui Kuang, a cultivator at the 5th level of the Bright Chi realm, was powerless in front of this sword. This sword is called Shocking Cloud. Now, you can die in peace. Chapter 113. You killed Shui Kuang. Deng Jia looked in horror at Shui Kuang, who had been cut in half. His face turned pale, and he took a few steps back. He could not suppress the trembling in his voice. Shui Kuang's father is the 3rd elder of the Blood Soul sect, Shui Kong. You dared to kill Shui Kuang. Elder Shui Kong will not let you go. Deng Jia pointed at Tianyang and said in horror. Tianyang frowned and asked, the 3rd elder of the Blood Soul sect, Shui Kong? What's his level? He's one of the few Bright Chi realm experts in the Arctic state. Even Elder Wu would be at a disadvantage if he were to fight with Shui Kong. Yang Xiong said with a serious face. He did not expect Shui Kuang to have such a background. A Bright Chi realm expert could do whatever he wanted in the Arctic state, as long as he did not provoke powerful forces such as the Soaring Cloud sect, the head of the 8 great clans, or the royal family of the Arctic state. This Shui Kuang was actually Shui Kang's son. This was going to be troublesome. Now that you know Elder Shui Kang's name, Why don't you kneel down and beg for mercy? Hand over the dragon saber, and maybe I, Deng Jia, will say a few words to Elder Shui Kong so that you won't suffer so much when you die." Deng Jia looked at the frowning Yang Xiong and suddenly recovered his strength. He pointed at Tianyang and laughed wildly. Hearing this, Tianyang's eyebrows twitched. "This guy's ignoring me? Does he think he's awesome?" "Noisy," Tianyang said indifferently. Then he waved the flaming wind sword, and a sword chi swept out. It contained the will of flowing cloud and instantly shattered Deng Jia's defense and killed him. The poor bright chi realm expert had a chance to survive for a few seconds, but because of his big mouth, he was instantly killed by Tianyang. "Now tell me, what kind of person is this Shui Kong?" Tianyang ignored Deng Jia, who had died with a grievance just like Shui Kuang, and turned his head to the side. Hearing this, Yang Xiong nodded and said seriously, "This Shui Kong is not only at the 7th level of the Bright Chi realm, but he also has an extremely high position in the Blood Soul sect. It can be said that he is second only to the sect master, first elder, and second elder, and above everyone else. With such power, even my cloud-soaring sect is extremely afraid of this person. Furthermore, it's said that Shui Kong is extremely protective of his children. Tianyang, now that you've killed Shui Kuang, I'm afraid you'll get into trouble." Yang Xiong said, "After we get out of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land, ask Elder Wu to escort you back to the Soaring Cloud sect. I'm sure that no matter how strong Shui Kong is, he wouldn't dare to act recklessly in the Soaring Cloud sect." To Yang Xiong's surprise, Tianyang shook his head. "Counter soldiers with arms, water with an earth weir. Whatever tricks this Shui Kong has up his sleeves, I'll just have to face it head on. Furthermore, there are countless opportunities within the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land. Who knows how strong I'll be after I leave this place? There's no need to boost the morale of others and diminish our own." Tianyang said indifferently. Jin Xiong and Zhang Chun, who were beside him, were ashamed. Although they were also disciples of the Soaring Cloud sect, they knew that the person that Tianyang had killed was Shui Kang's son. In their hearts, they had thought of running away. However, Tianyang's indifferent words shattered their thoughts. That's true. No matter how strong Shui Kong is, he's only at Clear Chi Realm level 7. Tianyang is currently at the peak of Clear Chi Realm level 2. Yet he could easily kill Shui Kuang and Deng Jia. If he breaks through to Clear Chi Realm level 4 or 5, how powerful would he be? Perhaps, at that time, the person who would be running away would be Shui Kong. Yang Xiong said excitedly. Hearing this, Tianyang nodded his head and said, "In this Hidden Dragon Ancient Land, the opportunity in the center is the greatest. Now that you guys are heavily injured, I don't know if you want to go to the center with me or recover from your injuries. No matter which one it is, I'll give you guys these recovery pills that I made. The Soaring Cloud sect can't lack people like you," Tianyang said. Then his space bag flashed, and 3 jade bottles containing the recovery pills appeared in his hand. With a flick of his finger, the 3 pills broke through the stopper and landed in the hands of the 3 people. This is a recovery pill. Tianyang, you actually have such a pill. If this is the case, I, Yang Xiong, can fight for the opportunity in the center of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land. Zhang Chun, Jin Xiong, are the 2 of you going?" Yang Xiong said excitedly. He immediately stood up and was about to leave. However, when Jin Xiong heard this, he smiled bitterly and shook his head. "I've just entered the Clear Chi realm not long ago. Even if I go to the center of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land, I'll only be cannon fodder. I'll find a place to recover at the edge of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land. Give this recovery pill to Zhang Chun. He's ranked 6th. He can't miss the opportunity to fight for the opportunity in the center of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land," Jin Xiong said. Then, he gave the recovery pill to Zhang Chun. Hearing this, Zhang Chen's face was filled with gratitude. "All right, Jin Xiong, I'll work hard with you in the future. Yang Xiong, Senior Tianyang, let's go," Zhang Chun said loudly. Hearing this, Tianyang and Yang Xiong nodded their heads and walked towards the center of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land. Jin Xiong looked at the backs of the three people and quickly flew towards the edge of the hidden dragon ancient land. He found a secluded cave and entered it to recover from his injuries. At the center of the hidden dragon ancient land. The center of the hidden dragon ancient land was not like what others thought. There were no special treasures or strange phenomena. In fact, it was just a big lake. Of course, this big lake was not ordinary. It was just that it was not the time for it to show off. Yi Zhanling, you're really fast. Looks like you're determined to get the opportunity in the hidden dragon ancient land. Beside the big lake, an ugly man looked at Yi Zhanling, whose face was filled with killing intent, and said with a smile. Hearing this, Yi Zhanling glanced at the man and said, Zhu Qing, as the senior brother of the Earth and Waste sect, aren't you here early as well? Not only me, Teng Hui from the Snow Mountain sect is also here. He's right there. The man called Zhu Qing by Yi Zhanling laughed weirdly and pointed at a man who was sitting cross-legged beside him. Hearing this, Yi Zhanling frowned and shut his mouth. The people of the Earth and Waste sect had always acted strangely. Even their martial skills were strange. Therefore, Yi Zhanling did not want to be entangled with Zhu Qing. I didn't expect that Yi Zhanling from the Soaring Cloud sect would be faster than me. At this time, an arrogant voice came from the side. The person was wearing a blood-red robe and had an arrogant face. He was holding a huge blood-red spear in his hand and had the aura of a peak Qi realm stage 5. This person was none other than Chao Kuangying. Where's that Tianyang from the Soaring Cloud sect? A low-grade yellow martial spirit. I didn't know until now that a piece of trash like him could come to the hidden dragon ancient land. Is there no one else in your Soaring Cloud sect? Chao Kuangying sneered. Hearing this, Yi Zhanling's face darkened. His eyes were like lightning as he stared at Chao Kuangying. My Soaring Cloud sect doesn't need an evil person like you to judge. Although Tianyang only has a low-grade yellow martial spirit, his strength is extremely powerful. Powerful? He hasn't appeared until now. I'm afraid he was eaten by the demonic beast in the hidden dragon ancient land. Your Soaring Cloud sect is getting weaker and weaker. Chao Kuangying shook his head and sneered. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan, who had just walked out of the forest, had an ugly expression on her face. Chapter 114. What did you just say? Ling Yuhan's extremely cold voice slowly rang out. Hearing this, some of the weaker cultivators even shuddered. As for those with higher cultivations, their expressions all changed as they looked towards Ling Yuhan. Junior sister Ling? The moment he saw Ling Yuhan, Yi Zhanling was shocked. The voice that seemed to come from the depths of hell came from this junior sister Ling, who was only at the Bright Qi realm. That voice, just by listening to it, was enough to send chills down one's spine. Such a voice actually came from a cultivator at the first level of the Clear Qi realm. Although this Bright Qi realm cultivator was unknowingly powerful and even made it into the top 20, Yi Zhanling was still a Bright Qi realm cultivator. Junior sister? Hearing this, Chao Kuangying frowned slightly. This beautiful girl was actually Yi Zhanling's junior sister? In other words, she was from a Soaring Cloud sect? But, so what if she's from a Soaring Cloud sect? I just said that Tianyang is a piece of trash. Chao Kuangying sneered. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan's eyes flashed with extreme coldness. She unsheathed her Azure Sea Sword, Ice Emperor's Heavenly Sword Technique, first form. Ling Yuhan snorted coldly. The true core in her body circulated rapidly and gathered on the Azure Sea Sword. In the next moment, an extremely cold light burst out from the Azure Sea Sword's blade. The sword radiance was extremely fast. Before Chao Kuangying could react, the sword radiance that exuded an extremely cold aura had already arrived in front of him. What? Chao Kuangying was shocked. This sword radiance was extremely fast. He hurriedly circulated the true core in his body, causing the surrounding blood qi to surge rapidly. Blood qi palm. Boom! The collision between the blood qi palm and the Ice Emperor's Heavenly Sword Technique created a terrifying shockwave. Even the surrounding trees were blown askew. However, it was different from what Chao Kuangying had imagined. His blood and qi palm was actually unable to shatter the sword light. On the contrary, his blood and chi palm was actually being suppressed. What kind of terrifying martial skill is this? Even a profound class martial skill would not be able to reach this level. This guy is clearly only at the first level of the clear chi realm. Chao Kuangying's face changed drastically. Blood chi surged inside and outside his body, and a hint of ruthlessness appeared in his eyes. Since he has such a martial skill, and he's from a soaring cloud sect, I can't let him live. The next moment, a bloody shadow appeared where Chao Kuangying had been standing. Chao Kuangying had already abandoned his blood and chi palm and rushed toward Ling Yuhan. Murderous intent flickered in his eyes. This person could not be left alive. You don't have the ability to look for me, yet you dare to bully my disciple. At this moment, a cold shout came from the side. In the next moment, a majestic and vigorous sword chi came from the side. Chao Kuangying's expression changed greatly. This sword was clearly not a martial skill. However, the threat it brought to him was even more frightening than that of Ling Yuhan's sword. Damn it! His plan to ambush Ling Yuhan had been discovered. Chao Kuangying's face turned ferocious. The true essence in his body began to circulate rapidly. The true essence of the peak of clear chi realm converged and collided with the sword chi. Bang! Another terrifying loud sound was heard. Chao Kuangying's body was directly sent flying several feet away. However, the person who had sent out this sword chi did not move at all. Instead, he looked at Chao Kuangying with cold eyes. Looking at the person's face, Chao Kuangying was shocked. This person was the person who had provoked him before the opening of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land. Tianyang, how could this brat's strength be so terrifying? Doesn't he have a lower yellow martial spirit? Chao Kuangying's expression changed greatly. At this moment, Yang Xiong and Zhang Chun, who were standing behind Tianyang, walked over. They looked at Chao Kuangying with an ugly expression. This guy did not care about his identity as the eldest senior of the Blood Soul sect. He attacked Ling Yuhan. Junior Ling, are you all right? At this moment, Yi Zhongling finally reacted. He hurried over and asked with concern. I'm fine. Ling Yuhan shook her head. Then she looked at Tianyang. The frost on her face immediately melted. She ran over to Tianyang with a smile. Master, what do you think of my sword chi? It's all right. You've comprehended the first form of the Ice Emperor's heavenly sword technique. However, you crossed 4 levels to fight with Chao Kuangying. It's too risky. Tianyang nodded. His gaze was still fixed on Chao Kuangying. This person dared to attack the disciple of the Tianji Sword Emperor. As her master, Tianyang was well aware of Ling Yuhan's strength. Although she could easily defeat people like Yang Xiao, she could still put up a fight against someone of the clear chi realm of the 5th stage. However, that was only the strength for one battle. Once they were in a stalemate, Ling Yuhan's Sea of Qi was not like Tianyang's Sea of Qi, which was 100 zhong wide. There was no way she could ignore the difference in levels and crush everyone. Chao Kuangying was at the peak of the clear chi realm of the 5th stage. He had opened up a total of 5 seas of qi. According to the information at hand, Chao Kuangying's Sea of Qi was at least 500 feet wide. Coupled with the various martial arts techniques of the Blood Soul sect and his own combat experience, Chao Kuangying's strength was considered to be at the top of the younger generation of the Arctic state. Although Ling Yuhan's talent was the best in the whole continent, Chao Kuangying was only a small character in the whole continent. However, the difference of 4 levels was still too big. In the future, if I'm not here, don't fight. Even if your martial arts are countless times better than his, your cultivation and combat experience are much weaker. Tianyang patted Ling Yuhan's head and said. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan nodded. However, Master, this guy just scolded you. If not, I wouldn't have fought. Ling Yuhan's face was filled with anger. To her, scolding Tianyang was more offensive than scolding herself. If not, how could Ling Yuhan ignore the difference of 4 levels and fight? I know. This debt will be settled sooner or later. Tianyang nodded. Then, he glanced at Chao Kuangying, who had already retreated into the territory of the Blood Soul sect. He snorted and went to the big lake. This is the core of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land, the dragon lake that is called the Hidden Dragon Lake. Tianyang turned his head and asked Yi Zhongling. Hearing this, Yi Zhongling nodded subconsciously. This dragon lake contains a lot of dragon chi. No wonder it is called the Hidden Dragon Lake. Nodding slightly, Tianyang squatted down and scooped up some of the lake water. If other magical beasts saw the dragon chi in the lake, they would definitely go crazy with excitement. One should know that the dragon was the king of all magical beasts. If a magical beast had a trace of dragon chi, their strength would increase by leaps and bounds. However, this little bit of dragon chi was nothing to Tianyang, who had the Dragon Ball. Chapter 115. Oomph. This bastard dares to provoke me. Chao Kuangying. When the dragon lake opens, I will make sure that he can't even pass the first test. Chao Kuangying said furiously as he stared at Tianyang, who was talking to Yi Zhongling. He was already shocked by the strength that Ling Yuhan had displayed. She was only at the clear chi realm, yet she was able to unleash such power. Just now, Tianyang did not use any skills. His casual attack was even more terrifying. Tianyang was only at the peak of the clear chi realm. Even Tin Chao Kuangying would not be able to match his talent. If we don't get rid of this kid, he will be a huge threat to the Blood Soul sect. Chao Kuangying said coldly as he stared at Tianyang viciously. Then, he took a few steps back. His eyes were flickering as if he was thinking about something. At this moment, Tianyang learned about the secret of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land from Yi Zhongling. The Hidden Dragon Ancient Land was the only ancient mystery land in the Arctic state. Naturally, the opportunities within were not limited to medicinal herbs and spiritual chi. The most important opportunities were the 3 tests at the bottom of the Dragon Lake. There were 3 tests, and each test would give one opportunity. If one passed all 3 tests, one would obtain the legendary Dragon Transformation Pool. Dragon Transformation Pool. Tianyang was shocked when he heard the name. Wasn't the Dragon Transformation Pool something that belonged to the Dragon Tribe? Why would there be one in the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land? Previously, when he rode Lil Red back to the Red Dragon Tribe, he had seen the Dragon Transformation Pool. It was used to transform a young dragon into a dragon. The pool contained many treasures that the Dragon Tribe had accumulated over a long period of time. The amount of spiritual chi in it was also terrifying. However, it was also terrifyingly powerful. Only the Dragon Tribe, with their terrifying physique, could withstand the impact of the violent energy. If it were a human being, they would definitely die without a burial ground if they did not cultivate a powerful body refinement technique. After all, the Dragon Transformation Pool was used by the Dragon Tribe to transform into a dragon. It's not the legendary Dragon Transformation Pool that the Dragon Clan needs to go through to reach adulthood. If it's really the kind of Dragon Transformation Pool, would we even have a chance to enter the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land? Seeing Tianyang's slightly shocked expression, Yi Zhongling naturally knew what he was thinking and explained. However, he was also secretly shocked. When he heard about the Dragon Transformation Pool from the Elder, he was so shocked that he was speechless. This was because he had seen a lot, so he didn't lose his composure too much. However, Tianyang's reaction gave Yi Zhongling a strange feeling. It seemed like the Dragon Transformation Pool was just a slightly special thing to Tianyang. However, even though he had doubts in his heart, Yi Zhongling continued to explain. This Dragon Transformation Pond is an imitation of the Dragon Clan's Dragon Transformation Pond. It also uses a lot of natural treasures. However, the most important thing is this Dragon Lake. The Dragon Lake contains a lot of dragon chi. This dragon chi is fused with the lake water, and there's nothing special about it. However, in the Dragon Transformation Pool, this dragon chi is able to erupt with shocking power. In addition to the strength of the Dragon Transformation Pool itself, as long as one is able to pass the 3 tests. In the end, one would at least be an Origin Transformation Realm expert. Yi Zhongling said in shock. Hearing this, Tianyang raised his eyebrows. This Dragon Transformation Pool actually has such a magical use? According to my senses, this dragon chi is at least left behind by an old dragon of the Dao Fire Realm. I don't know what kind of situation this blizzard state had in the past. Normally, dragons of the Dao Fire Realm would not come here. Tianyang whispered in his heart. Although the Dao Fire Realm's dragon Shi is far inferior to the crimson dragon pearl left behind by Little Red's descendant in my body in terms of quantity, it's hard to say in terms of quality. In addition to the huge amount of energy in the dragon transformation pool, I might be able to use this dragon transformation pool to complete the second refinement of the 9 refined dragon body. Tianyang chuckled. He never expected that there would be such an opportunity in this seemingly ordinary hidden dragon ancient land. Compared to this, the medicinal herbs and treasures that he had obtained previously were much inferior. Of course, it's extremely difficult to pass all 3 tests. Even I have less than a 50% chance of passing them. However, it's still possible to pass the first and second tests. The treasures of the first and second tests are much simpler than the dragon transformation pool. However, their value is still extraordinary. Yi Zhanling said. He knew that Tianyang's rise was too short. He did not know much about the inner sect disciples' knowledge. With the intention of strengthening the Lingyun sect, Yi Zhanling started to speak seriously. The rewards of the first and second tests are mostly martial skills. Sometimes there will be elixirs and weapons. There is even an earth rank martial skill and an upper rank weapon in the past. An upper rank weapon, even if it's used by an expert of the transforming origin realm, it wouldn't be cheap. The appearance of such a weapon immediately shook the entire snowy wind state. Yi Zhanling praised. An upper rank weapon and an earth rank martial skill were things that the disciples of the 9th rank sects could only dream of. However, as long as they passed the first 2 tests, they would be able to obtain such a treasure. For them, this was probably the closest they could get to an earth rank martial skill and an upper rank weapon. That's all I have to say. As for the content of the tests, it's always changing. However, most of them are related to talent and strength. Yi Zhanling said with a smile. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something and patted Tianyang's shoulder, using a comforting tone. Tianyang, don't take it to heart. Your strength is not bad. Although you've only awakened a low yellow rank martial spirit, a martial spirit doesn't represent everything, right? Although a martial spirit determines one's talent, in history, there were some people who didn't have a martial spirit but still had great achievements. Yi Zhanling comforted, but he also sighed in his heart. After all, although those people existed, they were really too few. In today's Sky Continent, martial souls were the deciding factor. However, Tianyang, who was comforted, had a strange expression. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry in his heart. He was the Grand Tianji Sword Emperor, the great emperor who dominated the continent 10,000 years ago. Unexpectedly, he was comforted by a young man who was only in his teens or 20s. However, Tianyang only smiled and walked to the side of the Dragon Lake, slowly waiting. As for Zhang Chun, he was excitedly waving the dragon saber that he had just obtained. With this dragon saber, the following tests would be much easier. As time passed, there were more and more people at the side of the Dragon Lake. When a number of people reached a limit, suddenly, in the depths of the Dragon Lake, a huge dragon roared, and a rolling pressure was born. Endless light soared into the sky. Tianyang's eyes widened, and the red dragon pearl in his body couldn't help but boil. Chapter 116. Dragons roar, dragons might and glow. The 3 signs of the opening of the Dragon Lake were all present. Seeing this, everyone's expression changed. They did not expect the most important opportunity of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land to open so soon. According to the rules of the previous batches, it should take at least 1 to 2 weeks. Now, it had only been half a week. Looking around the Dragon Lake, Yi Zhanling was relieved. He did not know why these people did not stay in the outer region of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land for long and rush to the Dragon Lake. Although there were many opportunities in the outer region of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land, they were not as good as the 3 tests. Most likely, these people had given up on the opportunities in the outer region and rushed to the Dragon Lake. The greatest opportunity of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land is about to open, Tianyang said as his eyes narrowed. At this moment, Yang Xiong walked over and said, "That's right. The dragons roar, Dragon's might and glow are all signs of the opening of the Dragon Lake. However, what is surprising is that the Dragon Lake is opening so early this time. Yang Xiong said. Tianyang nodded his head slightly. It had only been half a week since he entered the hidden dragon ancient land. It had taken him a lot of time to kill his way here from the outer region. Moreover, before he arrived, Zhang Chun, Jin Xiong, and the others were besieged by Shui Kuang and Deng Jia from the Blood Soul sect. It took him some time to save them. However, it had only been a little more than half a week. The greatest opportunity of the Dragon Lake had opened in half a week. Those who were familiar with the hidden dragon ancient land, or those who were familiar with the ancient mystery land like Tianyang, frowned slightly. This time, there might be some changes in the Dragon Lake. By the way, Tianyang, let me remind you of something. Yang Xiong looked around and suddenly approached Tianyang. He whispered in Tianyang's ear, Ho Long is here too. Look at your eyes, there is something wrong. Hearing this, Tianyang was slightly startled. Then, he turned his head and looked at Ho Long, who seemed to be waiting but was actually looking at him with resentment from time to time. Tianyang smiled in his heart. He understood that this kind of person was obviously narrow-minded. He had only broken his fist on the eagle, but he was already so jealous. Presumably, his martial arts achievements in the future would not be very high. From the looks of it, it seems that he wanted to attack me at the bottom of the lake. Tianyang's eyes flickered slightly as he whispered. Hearing this, Yang Xiong was shocked. That's impossible. No matter what, Ho Long is still a disciple of the Soaring Cloud sect. Even if there is a grudge between us, it should be settled in the future. This is the hidden dragon ancient land, where all the major sects are gathered. Hard to say. Tianyang shook his head. Then he walked to the side of the lake. At this time, the dazzling light gradually dissipated. Tianyang's soul strength could clearly sense that there was a wave of energy coming from the bottom of the lake. There was a dragon, but it was not just a dragon. An aura that was even stronger than the red dragon of the Dao Fire Realm came from the bottom of the lake. Looks like it's time to go in. Tianyang's eyes flickered slightly. At this time, Yi Zhanling and the others, who had a good understanding of the Dragon Lake, jumped in directly. Yuhan, let's go. Since everyone else had already moved, Tianyang naturally had to move as well. After calling out, Tianyang channeled his true Yuan and jumped in directly. The Dragon Lake was very deep. It was at least 500 feet deep. This depth was a great challenge for ordinary cultivators, even for those at the Clear Chi Realm Stage 3. Perhaps before they could even enter the bottom of the lake and undergo the 3 tests of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land, they would be crushed by the terrifying water pressure in the lake. Channel your true Yuan and support your body. Don't worry about the consumption. You must channel it. Otherwise, with this enormous water pressure, even an ordinary class 2 magical beast would be crushed to death. Tianyang shouted as he entered the lake. For him, there was no need to worry. He had cultivated the 9-tempered dragon body. Just his physical strength alone was enough to withstand the water pressure. However, Ling Yuhan was different. For a secret realm like this, if she was not careful, she would be in danger of dying. Yes, Ling Yuhan replied. Then, she channeled her true Yuan and swam towards the bottom of the lake. Tianyang followed closely behind. As for whether or not they could reach the bottom of the lake, Tianyang was not worried. However, what he was most worried about was the Dragon Lake was very big. As long as they could adapt to the lake, there would be enough space for them to fight. Tianyang, you humiliated me on the Flying Eagle. Now, you will die at the bottom of the lake. The dragon hides in ancient land. Even the elders would not be able to see the situation here. Everyone else is in other places and would not be able to see the situation here. Little bastard, prepare to die. A sinister roar came from his side. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan was startled, while Tianyang's lips curled up slightly. As expected, Ho Long, who had been staring at him with malicious eyes on the shore, did as he expected. In the lake, he attacked. Wave parting palm. Ho Long roared. The true Yuan of the Clear Chi realm in his body surged rapidly. In the next moment, with the support of the lake water, the wave parting palm was much stronger than the one on land. Seeing this, Tianyang's expression did not change. The flaming wind sword appeared in his hand. He shouted, "Flowing cloud sword technique." Boom! The wave-parting palm and the flowing cloud sword technique collided. There was a terrifying explosion. A huge force acted on the two of them, causing them to retreat a few steps. Seeing this, Holong's expression changed. He actually blocked it? This little bastard is just lucky. After this bastard dies, Ling Yuhan will be mine. Holong's eyes flashed with a lustful light. He shouted coldly, "Martial spirit, water snake." The force of his martial spirit was rapidly accumulated, and he was like a fish in water at the bottom of the lake. A water serpent appeared behind Holong's back. Seeing this, Tianyang suddenly understood. No wonder Holong chose to fight at the bottom of the lake. His martial spirit was a water snake. In the lake, any martial spirit that was related to water would have its power greatly increased. At this moment, Ling Yuhan was still familiarizing herself with the special environment of the lake. She was unable to help Tianyang. She looked at Tianyang anxiously. She hated herself for not being able to help her master when he was attacked. When she saw Holong's water snake martial spirit, Ling Yuhan's face became even paler. In the water, it would not be an exaggeration to say that a person with a water snake martial spirit's combat power would increase by several times. However, do you really think that you can defeat me with a terrain? At this moment, a cold snort came out from Tianyang's mouth. In the next moment, light circulated in Tianyang's hand. I'll let you have a taste of the newest move of the flowing cloud sword technique that I created. Shocking cloud. Tianyang shouted. The flaming wind, sword in his hand, flashed. In the next moment, a terrifying sword chi tore through the lake and attacked Holong. Holong's expression changed greatly. He looked at Tianyang in disbelief. How could this sword be so powerful? Wave parting palm. Shattering wave bang. Holong roared crazily. The water snake martial spirit behind him was constantly absorbing the power of the lake. However, against Tianyang, this seemed to be of no use. Those attacks were like tofu when they met the shocking cloud sword. They were instantly shattered. Everything he did was like a dying struggle. It was useless. In the next moment, the sword chi swept past Holong's neck. Blood spurted out. Holong was dead. However, Tianyang's expression did not change. He turned his gaze to the side. After staying here for so long, it's time for you to come out. Don't tell me that you, the eldest senior brother of the Blood Soul sect, want me to force you out. Following Tianyang's words, the lake water that seemed to be empty twisted. A blood-red robe appeared in their line of sight. Seeing this, Ling Yuhan was even more shocked. Chapter 117. Chao Kuangying. Ling Yuhan's face turned pale when she saw the Blood Soul sect's eldest senior brother appear from the lake. Chao Kuangying's notoriety was something she had heard of even though she had been staying near the Soaring Cloud sect. He killed people as if they were chickens, without any pity or sympathy. Moreover, his strength was terrifying, reaching the peak of the 5th level of the Bright Chi realm. Shouldn't such a person have entered the bottom of the lake to compete with people like Yi Zhanling for the opportunity? Why would he stay in the lake just to stop them? The opportunity in the Dragon Lake, in the Dragon Hidden Ancient Ground, doesn't have a first-come, first-served condition. As long as you enter within a certain time, you can pass the 3 tests. So if Yi Zhanling and the others want to fail first, let them go first. I'll kill the 2 of you first, and then take the test. It won't be too late. Chao Kuangying had a sinister smile on his face as he laughed evilly. Hearing this, Tianyang's expression did not change. The true Yuan in his body sped up. He knew that as the eldest senior brother of the Blood Soul sect, Chao Kuangying's strength was not something Holong could compare to. In other words, this battle would be more difficult than his battle with Lu Jin. However, the corner of his mouth curled up into a smile, as if he was starving. He knew about Chao Kuangying's martial spirit. It was rare in the entire Blizzard State, a low-grade mystic martial spirit. Even Yi Zhanling's martial spirit was only at this level. After devouring a low-grade mystic martial spirit, even if Tianyang's Sky Cloud Sword could not break through to the low-grade mystic martial spirit. It would be enough for it to enter the half-step mystic martial spirit. Kid, if you want to regret saying those words in the mountain. These words will cost you your life. Chao Kuangying laughed wildly. In his opinion, Tianyang, who had just fought with Ho Long, was already at the end of his rope. It was impossible for him to be his enemy. In other words, this talented person was going to die in his hands and become nourishment for his evil skills. The blood of a genius like you must be delicious. Chao Kuangying laughed weirdly. In the next moment, the true yuan in his body exploded. His figure disappeared from the spot. The resistance of the lake water seemed to have no effect on him. In the next moment, a bloody palm appeared behind Tianyang. Blood palm. A monstrous amount of blood qi condensed on Chao Kuangying's right palm. Just this amount of blood qi was enough to kill an average clear qi realm cultivator. Coupled with Chao Kuangying's own true yuan, he could even injure a clear qi realm cultivator. In Chao Kuangying's opinion, not only was it impossible for Tianyang to dodge this palm, but he would also die under this palm. This was because Tianyang's cultivation was only at the peak of the second level of the bright qi realm. Baleful blood palm, another one of Lu Jin's palm techniques. However, your technique is a bit better than Lu Jin's. Tianyang's faint laughter sounded, as if he did not care about the terrifying palm that was rapidly approaching him from behind. Hearing this, Chao Kuangying's face became even more ferocious. That trash who secretly learned my blood soul sex martial skills can be compared to me? You're courting death. Chao Kuangying roared. The baleful blood palm suddenly exploded with a huge bloody light. A bloody palm that was even bigger than Lu Jin's appeared in the lake. The surroundings were dark blue. Only the baleful blood palm was blood red. This visual impact was enough to make a person with a weak will pale and fall in an endless fear. However, was Tianyang that kind of person? As a reborn emperor, Tianyang's temperament was enough to kill everyone. However, no matter how good you are at it, you're still trash. Tianyang chuckled. The flaming wind sword in his hand suddenly attacked. The essence of flowing clouds exploded. Rays of terrifying sword light split the lake and tore apart the baleful blood palm. With Tianyang's repeated use of the essence of flowing clouds, it was far more powerful than before. Previously, Tianyang was able to use the essence of flowing clouds to tear apart Lu Jin's baleful blood palm. Now that Tianyang's strength had greatly increased, it was naturally the same for Chao Kuangying's baleful blood palm. He actually broke my baleful blood palm. This martial skill is definitely of an extraordinary grade. If I kill him, this martial skill will fall into my hands. Chao Kuangying was shocked. Then, he thought of something and a greedy smile appeared on his face. In the next moment, his true yuan exploded and rushed towards Tianyang. So what if you broke my baleful blood palm? Hand over your life obediently. Dark class upper grade, soul-breaking fist. Chao Kuangying roared. The rolling sound waves seemed to have been gathered by Chao Kuangying into a huge sound shock wave, rolling towards Tianyang. Chao Kuangying clenched his fist and condensed his true yuan, which was at the peak of bright qi realm level 5. Finally, it converged into a lethal fist. One of the most powerful martial skills of the Blood Soul sect, soul-breaking fist. As a dark class upper grade martial skill, Chao Kuangying had used this fist to kill countless bright qi realm level 5 and level 6 experts. Now, it was naturally easy to deal with Tianyang. Die for me, your beautiful disciple. I will gladly accept her. Chao Kuangying laughed sinisterly. At this moment, Tianyang's eyes moved slightly, and a trace of coldness flashed at his eyes. The disciple of the Tianji Sword Emperor. How could this kind of person touch her? Earth Dragon Body, Earth Dragon King Fist. Tianyang shouted. In this underwater fight, the advantage of the flaming wind sword could not be increased. It was better to use his invincible physical strength to crush Chao Kuangying. The first refining of the 9 refined dragon body was the Earth Dragon Body. The strength of the Earth Dragon Body also increased along with Tianyang's strength. Now, Tianyang's physical strength was enough to display a tyrannical fist technique of the Earth Dragon body. Its power was comparable to an Earth-class martial skill. Earth Dragon King Fist. Boom! The Earth Dragon King Fist, which contained boundless power, collided with Chao Kuangying's Absolute Soul Fist. Suddenly, the surrounding lake water was directly blasted away. It did not return for a few seconds. On the surface of the lake, the waves were turbulent. The battle between the two in the lake had affected the surface of the lake. There are people fighting in the lake. However, with this strength, they can definitely reach the bottom of the lake immediately. Why are they still fighting in the lake? The Snow Mountain sect's eldest senior brother's expression changed. He looked up in disbelief. However, his gaze could not penetrate the layers of lake water. He could not see the battle between Tianyang and Chao Kuangying. This aura? It's Chao Kuangying. There's another one. I can't sense it, but it is definitely not the other eldest senior brother of the four major sects. Who is it that can fight evenly with Chao Kuangying and even suppress him? Yi Zhanling's expression changed, and he exclaimed in disbelief. At this time, in the lake, puff! A mouthful of blood spurted out from Chao Kuangying's mouth. His face suddenly turned pale. He cultivated an evil martial skill that devoured flesh and blood. Now, he actually spat out blood, which meant that he was seriously injured. Chapter 118. Fresh blood dyed the lake water red. Chao Kuangying's body suddenly withered. His majestic blood chi was greatly weakened after he spat out a mouthful of blood. At this moment, two people happened to pass by. Then, they widened their eyes and stared at Chao Kuangying in disbelief. What did they just see? The eldest senior of the Blood Soul sect, the most powerful person in this opening of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land, spat out a mouthful of blood and was seriously injured in front of a stage 2 Bright Chi Realm cultivator. Who is that person? One of the young men whispered, unable to hide the shock in his voice. However, the other young man beside him hurriedly grabbed the young man's collar and retreated. When the city gate is on fire, the fish in the moat will suffer. This is a battle between geniuses. You and I are only stage 3 Bright Chi Realm cultivators. If we get involved in this battle, we can forget about coming to the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land. The young man said in a low voice. Hearing this, the shocked young man hurriedly retreated. However, he still did not shift his gaze away from Tianyang and Chao Kuangying. After all, this was a battle between geniuses. As stage 3 Bright Chi Realm cultivators, it was almost impossible for them to pass the test. They might as well observe the battle between geniuses. You actually made me vomit blood. Chao Kuangying's face was hideous as he stared at Tianyang. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Seeing this, Tianyang smiled indifferently. Vomit blood? Back then, he had even killed a Dao Fire Realm evil sect cultivator. Why would he be afraid of Chao Kuangying? Since you made me vomit blood, then I will kill you. Chao Kuangying roared. The true yuan in his body surged rapidly. In the next moment, boundless blood chi filled the air and condensed into a giant palm. Still the blood palm? Do you really think that a martial skill that has been used once will be useful the second time? Tianyang raised his eyebrows and laughed. At this moment, Chao Kuangying's face twisted, and he suddenly slapped his own heart. Bang! A muffled sound was heard. Chao Kuangying also spat out a mouthful of blood. At this moment, the two young men beside him were shocked. This is the secret skill of the Blood Soul sect. Use fresh blood to strengthen the power of your martial arts. Once this secret technique is used, a mystic high-grade martial skill might be able to unleash a mystic peerless grade martial skill, or even half a step into the Earth class. The young man's face turned pale with fright. However, using this kind of secret method is also a great loss to the Blood Soul sect's disciples. This young man actually forced Chao Kuangying to use this move. Hearing this, the young man's expression changed drastically. He looked at Tianyang in disbelief. How could a clear chi second stage cultivator force Chao Kuangying, who was at the peak of the clear chi fifth stage, to use such a secret technique? It should be known that once this secret method was used, Chao Kuangying would definitely not be able to participate in the Dragon Lake's test. Little bastard, to be able to die under my palm, you're pretty strong. You should be honored in the underworld. Chao Kuang-ying laughed ferociously. At this moment, his face was rapidly turning pale. However, Tianyong only smiled faintly. He did not seem to care about the secret technique of the blood palm. Although the will of Flowing Cloud had indeed used his full strength, it did not mean that Tianyong had used his full strength. Blood palm, kill him for me. Kill this little bastard from the soaring cloud sect. Chao Kuang-ying roared crazily. At this moment, the blood palm, which was condensed with the power of the secret technique, suddenly exploded with a bloody light. In the next moment, it directly swept across a distance of dozens of feet and arrived in front of Tianyong. As for Tianyong, he smiled faintly. The yuan qi in his body circulated, and then he slashed out with his sword. Sky Sword Technique, first form, Sky Soaring. When Sky Soaring is used, who can compete with it? The terrifying sword light seemed to be able to block out the sunlight. It was as if Sky Soaring was the core of this world. Although the size of the blood palm was far larger than the sword light, a strange feeling arose in everyone's heart. It was as if the blood palm was unbelievably small in front of this sword. What? Chao Kuang-ying looked at the scene in front of him in disbelief. The blood palm, which he had used the secret technique, was actually useless in front of this sword. It was even more fragile than paper. Sky Soaring sword did not directly cut the blood palm's body, but the blood palm showed signs of collapsing. Boom! The majestic explosion spread throughout the entire Dragon Lake. On the lake, at the bottom of the lake, everyone who heard this explosion, regardless of their strength, changed their expressions greatly. Even if they used all their strength, they would not be able to create such a commotion. Sky Soaring sword was not fast, but it was not slow either. In 1 second, the blood palm pierced through. In 3 seconds, the blood palm collapsed. In 4 seconds, the fatal sword light swept across Chao Kuang-ying's waist. Fresh blood spurted out, and Chao Kuang-ying's aura was rapidly declining. He relied on his blood qi to reach such a realm. Now that his blood qi was rapidly disappearing, his aura and even his realm were rapidly declining. Tianyong, even if I die, I won't let you have it easy. Chao Kuang-ying, whose upper body was completely separated from his lower body, screamed mournfully. In the next moment, he used the last of his remaining strength to open the space bag. Then, a small blood-red bead appeared in front of Chao Kuang-ying. Blood Soul Bead, kill him! Chao Kuang-ying screamed mournfully. At this moment, the blood-red bead rotated slightly, erupting with a terrifying aura that made one's heart palpitate. It was not the aura that was strong, but the soul power contained in it had reached the primordial transformation realm. The soul power of the primordial transformation realm was enough to make a radiant chi realm cultivator breathless. Moreover, after releasing the soul power of the primordial transformation realm, the Blood Soul Bead also released an attack. It condensed all the soul power of the primordial transformation realm in the Blood Soul Bead and carried the demonic chi of the Blood Soul sect, a soul attack. This Blood Soul Bead is one of the Blood Soul sect's most precious treasures. Even if your Soaring Cloud sect's Elder Wu came, he would only be killed by the Blood Soul Bead. If I die, you Tianyong won't have an easy time. Chao Kuang-ying laughed wildly. At this moment, the two young men beside him looked at the blood-red bead in despair. The soul attack of a primordial transformation realm cultivator could not be blocked by a soul attack of a primordial transformation realm cultivator, let alone a radiant chi realm cultivator at the second stage of the radiant chi realm. Ling Yuhan was even more desperate. No matter what, Tianyong was only a radiant chi realm cultivator at the second stage of the radiant chi realm. However, as the person involved, Tianyong's expression became strange when he felt the soul wave, playing with the soul power of the primordial transformation realm in front of a sword emperor at the heavenly ascension realm. This was even more arrogant than playing with a knife in front of an expert. In the next moment, the soul attack bombarded Tianyong's soul. However, Tianyong did not react at all. Instead, the blood soul bead suddenly trembled. Chao Kuangying looked at it in horror before he died. Chapter 119. Chao Kuangying was dead. Everyone fell into silence as they looked at the legless corpse that floated to the bottom of the lake. That person was undoubtedly Chao Kuangying. Not to mention anything else, just his arrogant and domineering attitude alone was impossible for ordinary people to imitate. Moreover, the other disciple of the Blood Soul sect cried out in grief. This made them realize that Chao Kuangying was one of the strongest people in the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land. He was really dead. He had died before the start of the 3 tests in the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land. Yi Zhanling's jaw dropped as he looked at the legless corpse. Chao Kuangying was dead? Moreover, he was cut in half at the waist in an incomparably clean manner. Was there someone stronger than them in the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land? Even Yi Zhanling, who was half a step into the Clear Chi realm, would have a hard time killing Chao Kuangying. Not only would he have to use the 7-star sword, but he would also have to fight for a long time. After all, the Blood Soul sect's eldest senior brother must have many life-saving treasures on him. However, Chao Kuangying was dead. In other words, the person who killed him not only had the strength to kill Chao Kuangying, but also had the ability to destroy all of Chao Kuangying's life-saving treasures. There is such a strong person in the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land, and we didn't know about it? Yi Zhanling murmured. However, he could not continue thinking about it. After all, there were too few traces on Chao Kuangying's body. The Blood Soul Pearl is gone. Eldest senior brother even used the Blood Soul Pearl. How could he be dead? At this moment, the disciple of the Blood Soul sect who was checking Chao Kuangying's corpse said in shock. Not only the Blood Soul Pearl, but even Chao Kuangying's interspatial bag was stolen. Who could be so ruthless? However, there was too little information on Chao Kuangying's corpse. Even the disciple of the Blood Soul sect, who knew Chao Kuangying well, did not know who did it. At this moment, Tianyang and Yi Zhanling landed at the bottom of the lake. Tianyang, you guys are finally here. When Yi Zhanling saw Tianyang and Yi Zhanling, he smiled and brought them over. After all, other than the Soaring Cloud sect, the 4 great sects were the strongest at the bottom of the lake. The words that Tianyang had said before the opening of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Ground had drawn the hatred of the 4 great sects to the maximum. Furthermore, the 4 great sects were shocked to discover that an average of 17 of the disciples they had sent out had been killed. In other words, if the 4 great sects had lost another 12 disciples, Tianyang's words would be true. Furthermore, there were far more than 12 disciples of the 4 great sects here. Thinking up to there, the people from the 4 great sects felt a chill run down their spines. Could it be that even when their own sects joined forces to suppress the Ling Yun school, there was no effect at all? Tianyang hadn't been doing nothing for the past 3.5 days. The number of disciples from the 4 great sects that had died at his hands had exceeded 30. Other than Tianyang, no one would dare to do this in the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land. After all, the 4 great sects were outside the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land. Speaking of which, Chao Kuangying died not long before you arrived. You should have been in the lake, right? Did you find anything? Yi Zhanling asked. However, it was just a simple question. After all, no one would link the death of Chao Kuangying, who was at the peak of Clear Chi Realm, with Clear Chi Realm Cultivator at the peak of Clear Chi Realm. To these people, it was almost impossible for someone to be able to kill someone who was 4 stages higher than him. No, Tianyang said, but in his heart he was laughing. No. He even took Chao Kuangying's interspatial bag without hesitation. He threw away the evil martial techniques inside, but he accepted the 5,000 spiritual stones inside with a smile. Tianyang knew that with his ultimate sea of qi, the more he leveled up, the more resources he would need. He already had close to 5,000 low-grade spiritual stones, plus the experience in the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land and the spiritual stones from killing Chao Kuangying. Tianyang now had more than 10,000 spiritual stones. Even Elder Wu, who was at stage 7 Bright Chi Realm, will be jealous of such wealth. However, Tianyang thought that it would be difficult for him to reach stage 5 Bright Chi Realm. However, compared to his cultivation, the Heavenly Sword's upgrade was much closer. When he kept the heavenly sword, he found out. The blood soul pearl that Chao Kuang-Ying released before his death required the power of his martial soul to activate. No wonder Chao Kuang-Ying did not release his martial soul during the battle. It turned out that his martial soul could not form a martial soul shadow, but its power was still terrifying. After devouring it, the heavenly sword's nourishment was also terrifying. No. Hearing this, Yi Zhanling sighed. That's good. Since Chao Kuang-Ying died before the start of the third test, the person who killed him must be very powerful. Although the Soaring Cloud sect is not afraid of this kind of person, it's best not to provoke him. After all, if he can kill Chao Kuang-Ying, he can also kill me. Yi Zhanling was afraid. Hearing this, Tianyang and Ling Yuhan nodded with a strange expression. They retreated to the side and looked at the surrounding terrain. The bottom of the lake was flat, and the white sand with a little light yellow covered the ground under everyone's feet. Moreover, Tianyang found that the dragon chi here was much stronger than in the lake. The closer they were to a small pit, the denser the dragon chi was. It seemed that was the place where the third test would start. It's going to start soon. Suddenly, Tianyang's eyes moved, and he felt that the surrounding spiritual chi of heaven and earth was changing rapidly. At this time, in the small pit, there was a sudden burst of light. Seeing this, everyone's face changed and became ecstatic. They even forgot about Chao Kuang-Ying's death. This meant that the third test of the Dragon Lake was about to start. If they could pass one or two of the three tests, at the very least, they would be rewarded with a profound rank martial skill. This kind of reward was rare, even in a 9th rank sect like the Soaring Cloud sect. Now, the moment the light stabilized, everyone let out a low roar and immediately used their true essence to rush in. Tianyang also clearly felt that the surrounding dragon chi had suddenly increased by a lot. Charge! Everyone roared and unleashed their own agility martial skills. Even Yi Zhanling was no exception. He immediately rushed into the light. Seeing this, Tianyang and Ling Yuhan looked at each other and smiled, then walked in together. Chapter 120. The three tests were said to be the most difficult tests in the legends of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land. Many cultivators who had explored the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land in the past had come here, but they had all died here. Even if there was a sect like the Soaring Cloud sect, there would still be people dying in the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land. This was the last test of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land. Stepping on the soft sand, Tianyang looked around. Without the Dragon Lake, this place seemed like an ordinary space. However, the strong dragon chi around him told him that this place was definitely not ordinary. This is the first test of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land? I wonder what this test is about. Tianyang mumbled. Tianyang was not worried about the test of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land. This level of the ancient mystery land was not a threat to him. Compared to the others who were nervous and fearful, Tianyang's reaction was the calmest. Roar! At this moment, a roar came from in front of him, and a strong pressure burst out. There was even a trace of dragon chi in it. Once the dragon chi was released, Tianyang's expression changed slightly. Then, he used the dragon's subduing step and walked forward. Roar! The demonic beast looked at Tianyang with its blood-red eyes and roared. It even stood up and looked down at Tianyang. This demonic beast was at least 3 feet tall. There were even dragon scales in some places. Even the silver python, lightning python, and red blood python that Tianyang had encountered could not compare to this demonic beast in terms of dragon blood. It had a lion's head and a lion's body, but there were dragon scales on its body. Moreover, there were 2 dragon horns on its head. Although there were only a few dragon horns, it was enough to prove that this demonic beast was not an ordinary demonic beast. It's a dragon lion? And it's a dragon lion with an inferior bloodline power? Tianyang exclaimed as he looked at Long Shi, who was emitting a violent aura. He did not expect that the first trial of the Dragon Hidden Ancient Land would be this Long Shi. The dragon lion was a lion magical beast that possessed the bloodline of the dragon. The dragon was the king of all beasts. Being able to possess a little bit of the dragon's bloodline was enough to make an ordinary magical beast's strength undergo a qualitative leap. As for the dragon lion, It was one of the ordinary magical beasts that possessed the most dragon bloodline. However, it was extremely rare. 10,000 years ago, although Tianyang had heard of it, he had never seen it. He did not expect to see it now. Second stage, intermediate stage. With the help of the dragon bloodline, this long, sure strength is at least at the 6th stage of the bright chi realm. Licking his lips, Tianyang's eyes blazed with fighting spirit. Previously, Chao Kuanying had barely forced him to use his sky-piercing sword. Even Yi Zhanling might not be able to force him to use his full strength. However, this Long Shi, who had reached the 6th stage of the bright chi realm, might be able to. The scabbard on his back shook slightly, and the flaming wind sword shot out and landed in Tianyang's hand. The heavenly sword, martial spirit, immediately attached to it. The true yuan of the peak of the 2nd stage of the bright chi realm surged within his body. In the next moment, Long Shi made the first move. Roar! Rolling sound waves mixed with tyrannical true yuan attacked Tianyang. Seeing this, Tianyang chuckled and used the dragon subduing step, immediately disappearing from the spot. Sword light flickered. Tianyang had begun the battle. At the same time, in another space, the eldest senior brother of the Earthly Way sect, Zhu Qing, looked at the incomparably huge Long Shi with an ugly expression. Most of the people of the Earthly Way sect were good at concealment, and their methods were strange. However, these methods were obviously useless against the powerful Long Shi. Looking at the tyrannical degree of this Long Shi, it was obvious that he wanted Zhu Qing to meet force with force. Bastard, you're just a beast. Even if you're at the middle of the 2nd stage. So what if you're at the 6th stage of the bright chi realm? Die for me. Zhu Qing roared. The true yuan of the peak of the 5th stage of the bright chi realm surged rapidly and rushed towards Long Shi. On the other hand, Long Shi roared and suddenly swung out his claws that had some characteristics of a dragon's claw. The majestic true yuan exploded. In a short period of time, Zhu Qing's attack was smashed into pieces. In the next moment, Long Shi swung out his claws again. Zhu Qing's true yuan protection was completely shattered, and he was directly sent flying. Blood flowed from his mouth and nose. In just 2 moves, Zhu Qing was completely defeated. I don't know what species this demonic beast is, but judging from its aura, it's definitely not ordinary. Yi Zhanling's face was dignified as he looked at Long Shi in front of him. If I meet force with force, I'm definitely not a match for this demonic beast. So, I have to come up with a strategy. But it's not that easy to come up with a strategy. The 3 tests of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Lands are indeed extraordinary. But this one test is not enough to stop me. Yi Zhanling roared. In the next moment, the true yuan of the half-step bright chi realm gushed out violently and rushed towards Long Shi. At the same time, Long Shi also began to roar angrily. In a moment, the entire first test of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Lands fell into a battle. At the same time, at Tianyang's location. Carefree, carefree. Tianyang laughed out loud. His body constantly shuttled through the air. Long Shi's various attacks were all dodged by him with exquisite movements. On the other hand, Long Shi was the exact opposite. The huge body that gave countless people a headache was just a live target in Tianyang's eyes. As a mid-grade treasure weapon, the flaming wind sword was extremely sharp, although it was not as sharp as the dragon saber. But with Tianyang's sword cultivation, even if Long Shi's defense was shocking, he would still be cut by the sword. Moreover, Tianyang's earth dragon body was able to completely destroy Long Shi. His movements were inferior, his attack power was inferior, and even his dragon blood was inferior. However, his opponent's dodging skills were as if he had been trained since he was in his mother's womb. The more he fought, the angrier Long Shi became. At this moment, his originally beautiful and hard dragon scales were already covered with various sword scars. Some of them were left behind by the flaming wind sword. There were also some that Tianyang was happy to fight. He directly threw out a punch, blasting out a huge fist mark. The Long Shi that made countless people tremble with fear at the mention of his name, in front of Tianyang, had completely become a toy that could be trampled on wantonly. Roar! Long Shi roared. His originally golden skin was covered by a blood-red color. At this moment, Longshore was completely enraged. The result of his rage was that the dragon blood in his body boiled. Once the dragon blood boiled, Longshore's strength would skyrocket. Now, Longshore's aura was rising steadily, proving this point. I actually made him go berserk. Tianyong was a little surprised. He had not used his full strength yet, but Longshore had already gone berserk. However, it was good that he went berserk. Just right. He could end the battle quickly. Roar! Longshore roared to the sky. The true essence in his body, which had been dyed red, surged out violently, condensing into a dragon claw that covered the sky. Although only a finger of the dragon claw was exposed, it exuded an unparalleled power. Dragon blood boiling, true dragon claw. This was Longshore's trump card. In the face of this move, even a clear chi realm expert of the 7th or 8th level could only temporarily avoid it. However, seeing this scene, Tianyong smiled slightly. Come on. In the next moment, the dragon power in his body erupted, condensing into the flaming wind sword. The light of the heavenly sword shone wildly. In the next moment, Tianyong's aura suddenly rose to the extreme. I just created a move, just right to use you to test it. Earth Dragon Body, Earth Dragon King Sword. Chapter 121. Dragon Sword. In midair, the radiance of the dragon power shone. At this moment, Tianyong had already pushed his Earth Dragon physique to the extreme. In addition to his own understanding of the way of the sword, he had forged this dragon sword. Even the Scarlet Dragon revered martial artist, who had created the heaven-ranked martial skill, the 9 refined dragon body in the ancient era, would not have thought that his successor after the ancient era would be able to comprehend his 9 refined dragon body to such an extent. Moreover, using his own understanding of the way of the sword, with the 9 refined dragon physique as the foundation and the way of the sword emperor as the core, he had subverted and created this remarkable technique. The sword emperor was indeed the sword emperor. Even 10,000 years ago, Crimson Dragon Wu Zun, who was also strong enough to be called an emperor, could improve the martial technique. Calling this sword the Earth Dragon King Sword is not quite right. However, if I cultivate the heavenly dragon physique and the true dragon physique in the future, it won't be too late to change the name. The majestic pressure even imprisoned the true dragon claw in midair. Tianyong raised his right arm high, and the flaming wind sword in his hand turned into the Earth Dragon King Sword. The Earth Dragon King Sword that was 10 feet long and incomparably sharp. A person who was a few feet tall holding a 10 feet long giant sword. This visual impact was extremely huge. Although the true dragon's claw was Longshore's strongest move, it was not unleashed by a true dragon. In front of the Earth Dragon King's sword, there was only destruction. Kill! Tianyong shouted loudly, and the Earth Dragon King's sword in his hand erupted. Monstrous dragon power swept out and directly crushed the true dragon claw into pieces. In the next moment, the incomparably sharp Earth Dragon King's sword descended on Longshore's head. Longshore did not even have the courage to roar. In front of this dragon power that had already crushed him countless times, he could only tremble. Even if he did not tremble, there was only one outcome. The Earth Dragon King's sword was enough to kill Longshore in an instant. The dragon's sword fell, and Longshore was also slashed into nothingness by the terrifying power contained within. At this moment, Tianyong's face revealed a trace of paleness. The dragon sword divine ability was a combination of a heaven-class martial skill and his own understanding of the way of the sword. For someone who was only at the peak of the 2nd level of the Bright Chi realm, it consumed a lot of energy. Even with the support of the 2,000-foot ocean of Chi, this trump card had successfully consumed 60% of Heavenly Yang's vital energy. One had to know that 2,000 feet ultimate Chi Cs were comparable to the total amount of true yuan of an average 6th level Bright Chi realm martial artist. It could be seen how terrifying the Dragon Sword Divine ability was. Not bad. The might of this Earth Dragon King Sword has greatly exceeded my imagination. In the future, my trump card won't just be the Sky Extreme Sword Art. Tianyong grinned and chuckled. Even a sword emperor like the Tianji Sword Emperor was extremely satisfied with the dragon's sword mystic ability. Then, a portal opened beside Tianyang. Inside the spatial door, a golden halo flickered. Clearly, this was the passageway to the second test after passing the first test. Understanding this, Tianyang walked in without hesitation. Up until now, in the first test of the Dragon Lake in the Dragon Hidden Ancient Land, other than Tianyang, the best was Yi Zhanling, who had injured Long Sure. He was still far from the first test requirement of killing Long Sure. Stepping into the second test, Tianyang suddenly felt that the surrounding spiritual qi had suddenly changed. It was still abundant, but the dragon qi was much weaker. Tianyang could not help but wonder if this was the Dragon Lake. However, Tianyang soon found out the content of the second test. The first test tested one's strength. Being able to defeat Long Sure, who was at the 6th level of the Bright Qi realm, was enough to prove that this person's strength was extraordinary. Therefore, the second test naturally did not continue to test one's strength. Instead, it tested something else. However, even the creator of the Dragon Hidden Ancient Land would not have thought that there would be someone at the peak of the 2nd level of the Bright Qi realm who could defeat Long Sure with just a few punches and kicks. The second test is actually to test one's comprehension. Tianyang glanced at the stone tablet beside him. After skimming through it, he smiled. 10 profound, ranked martial techniques. The difficulty of learning them is the same. You can choose any one of them. If you can reach a certain level within the time limit, you will be able to enter the third test. Tianyang smiled. No wonder those who had experienced the Dragon Hidden Ancient Land said that as long as one could make it to the second test, even if they were eliminated immediately, they would still be able to learn a profound ranked martial technique. Tianyang had thought that the reward for the first test would be a profound ranked martial technique. Now, it seemed that the second test was to learn a profound ranked martial technique. For a small country like the Arctic state, to be able to learn 10 profound ranked martial techniques at will, and to have an even more powerful third test, it would not be an exaggeration to say that they were as rich as a country. Comprehending a martial skill, this is much easier than the first test. I wonder how far I can reach in these 3 days. Tianyang smiled. Then, he walked past the stone tablet and came to the cabinet where the 10 profound, ranked martial techniques were placed. He started to choose. Since he was going to learn a martial technique, he had to learn the one that was most suitable for him. Although Tianyang had mastered many trump cards, they were still trump cards after all. Although they were powerful, they consumed a lot of energy. In daily battles, he would definitely use ordinary martial techniques. Until now, Tianyang did not have the time to learn the thousands of martial techniques stored in his mind. He did not expect that the Dragon Hidden Ancient Land would give him chance. Scarlet Light Fist Art was a profound ranked, peerless martial technique. Once used, it would draw upon the energy of heaven and earth and explode with a scarlet light. Its power was extraordinary. 7-star sword combo was a profound ranked, peerless martial technique. However, one had to reach the peak of the 7-star sword combo to be able to unleash the power of a profound ranked, peerless martial technique, or even surpass it. At a glance, Tianyang noticed 2 martial techniques. The first martial technique sounded familiar to Tianyang. It must be a martial technique from a certain faction in the Arctic state. The second sword technique sounded really familiar. It was one of the strongest sword techniques in the Soaring Cloud sect. However, the Soaring Cloud sect only had the 6-star sword combo, so it was only a profound ranked upper martial technique. Now, it seemed that the Soaring Cloud sect did not have an incomplete version. Instead, the person who comprehended the 7-star sword combo only comprehended the 6-star sword combo. However, even though he saw a familiar sword technique, Tianyang did not plan to choose immediately. He had to take a look first. Aurora's sword technique was a profound ranked, peerless martial technique. It was extremely fast. Once used, even by a Clear Qi Realm cultivator, a Clear Qi Realm cultivator would not be able to react in time. After skimming through the 10 profound, ranked, peerless martial techniques, Tianyang pondered for a while. Chapter 122. After making his choice, Tianyang chose the seven-star sword and the Aurora swordsmanship. Needless to say, the seven-star sword was Ling Yun's strongest upper-grade profound-level martial technique. The complete version was a peerless profound-level martial technique. Even if Tianyang did not choose it today, he would still cultivate it when he returned to Ling Yun's sect in the future. After all, in Tianyang's mind, there were only a few profound-level, peerless, profound-level martial techniques that could compare to the seven-star sword. Moreover, he was purely relying on his memory to cultivate it. It was much more difficult than having the original copy here. In Tianyang's hands, profound-level martial techniques were only used for ordinary attacks. It was completely different from others. For others, as long as it was a profound-level martial technique, they would treat it as a treasure and would not use it casually. They would treat it as a trump card. However, in Tianyang's hands, profound-level martial techniques were only slightly better than his ordinary attacks. After all, Tianyang was the Tianji Sword Emperor, the strongest person in the mainland 10,000 years ago. For others, profound-level martial techniques were something that could only be encountered but not sought. For Tianyang, it was just ordinary. In addition to the seven-star sword, Tianyang had also heard of the Aurora swordsmanship 10,000 years ago. In his mind, there was also this swordsmanship, but Tianyang had not cultivated it yet. That's true. This is the ancient mystery land, and 10,000 years ago, before the civilization was destroyed, there were many martial techniques passed down from the ancient mystery land. It's natural. Tianyang smiled faintly. Then he picked up the two martial techniques and planned to go to the side to cultivate. At this moment, an emotionless mechanical voice rang in Tianyang's ears. If you choose a profound-level martial technique, you only need to cultivate one profound-level martial technique to a certain level to pass the stage. If you choose two profound-level martial techniques, you need to cultivate both to a higher level. Thou hast chosen two profound rank martial skills, the seven-star sword link and the Aurora sword art. Thou hast to cultivate the seven-stars sword link to 3 stars and the Aurora sword art to the initial stage within 3 days. It seemed to be a shout left behind by an ancient expert. It fell into Tianyang's ears. Hearing this, Tianyang smiled faintly. If he chose 2 profound ranked martial skills to cultivate, would the difficulty increase greatly? To ordinary geniuses of the Snowgale State, it might be extremely difficult, and they might even put down one of the profound rank martial skills to cultivate. However, for Tianyang, who had comprehended the 3rd stage of the Drifting Cloud Sword art in just a few hours, he had cultivated to the 3rd star of the 7-star sword combo and the initial success of the Aurora sword art in just 3 days. Was it very difficult? If it weren't for the fact that there are only 2 books here that are useful to me, I would have cultivated 10 books for you to see. Tianyang smiled at the cold mechanical voice, after which he stepped out with a dragon, subduing step. His body flashed and disappeared from where he was, heading towards the martial skill cultivation room that was specially prepared for the hidden dragon ancient land. Martial skill cultivation room. It wasn't big, only half the size of the Ling Yun sect's martial training field. It was spacious and there were no obstructions. However, when Tianyang reached the end, he realized that there was an invisible barrier blocking him. If he didn't use his full strength, it would be impossible to break through it. Oh well, even if this space is reduced by half, I can still easily cultivate these 2 martial skills. Tianyang smiled and walked back to his original spot. Beside him, there was a large target that was used to test the results of Tianyang's cultivation. With a flick of the scabbard on his back, the flaming wind sword appeared in his hand. After which, Tianyang carefully recalled the 7-star sword link to use the sword technique. The 7-star sword link was a profound class, peerless martial skill. It used the power of the sword to stimulate the true yuan in one's body and burst out 7 sword rays. Each of the 7 sword rays contained half of the user's full strength. If the user was lucky enough to trigger the power of the stars in the sky, the 7-star sword link would explode with the power of an Earth rank martial skill. Recalling the introduction, Tianyang couldn't help but smile, stimulating the power of the stars. This seven-star sword link is really something. It has a little of Sword Saint Zhou Xing shadow. Tianyang smiled. Sword Saint Zhou Xing was a Heaven Ascension realm sword cultivator that he knew in his previous life. His strength was extremely strong, even 10,000 years ago. However, because there was Tianyang, the Tianji Sword Emperor, above him, Sword Saint Zhou Xing could only be a sword saint. He had the strength of a sword emperor, but he couldn't be called an emperor. In every era, only one person could be called an emperor. This was an unchanging principle. Tianyang was called an emperor, and no one who wanted to be called an emperor in the future could defeat him. That was how he stabilized his position as an emperor and became the strongest person in the continent 10,000 years ago. However, Sword Saint Zhou Xing's stellar sword technique is a heaven-class sword technique. This seven-star sword link is cultivated to the extreme. Only by chance can one release the power of an earth-class martial skill. It is still lacking. Tianyang smiled softly. Then, he picked up the wind flame sword and started to practice. The last time he practiced the flowing cloud sword technique, he only used his eyes to scan and didn't practice with his sword. Now, in order to quickly convert these two sword techniques into battle strength, Tianyang naturally had to speed up. Only by using the sword could he comprehend the essence of the sword technique in a short time. After a few swings, Tianyang suddenly stopped. He stood with his hands behind his back and looked at the vast blue sky. His eyes moved slightly. This seven-star sword link is like this. It seems that as long as I comprehend the first star, I can easily comprehend the next 6 stars. Tianyang muttered to himself. Then he picked up the wind flame sword in his hand. His eyes focused slightly, and he suddenly slashed at the empty space in front of him. 3 sword rays were like stars shining in the daytime. They exploded and slashed the ground, leaving a deep mark. 9-star sword link. The Lingyun sect's eldest senior brother, Yi Zhanling, had cultivated for many months before he successfully cultivated the 9-star sword link. In Tianyang's hands, it only took him less than half a minute. Then, Tianyang comprehended while he swung his sword. After cultivating the 9-star sword link for about 10 minutes, he swung his sword again. 4 sword rays were like stars shining. 4-star sword link. Half an hour later, Tianyang slowly walked and arrived at the center of the martial skill cultivation room. He then slashed at the sky. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5-star sword link. Next, Tianyang's cultivation speed became faster and faster. In 3 minutes, 6-star sword link. In 1 hour, 7-star sword link. 7-star sword link, a profound rank, peerless martial skill, a powerful sword technique that was close to a half-step earth rank martial skill. In a short 2 hours, it was completely comprehended by Tianyang and entered the peak of the second stage of the martial skill cultivation. He was only a step away from comprehending the martial skill concept. This step that had trapped countless people, to Tianyang, only needed a light kick to open the door to the martial skill concept. Chapter 123. Just as Tianyang had successfully mastered the 7-star sword combo and was preparing to practice the Aurora sword technique, another person appeared in the silent second round of the test. The young man carried a sword and looked handsome. He was wearing the white robe of the Soaring Cloud sect. However, the robe was stained with blood. If an ordinary disciple of the Soaring Cloud sect saw this, they would be shocked. Yi Zhanling was the #1 genius of the Arctic state. Yet, his robe was stained with blood. What exactly was his opponent? That was close. That was really close. If I had discovered the weakness and attacked it a second later, Longshire's fatal blow would have crushed me into ashes. Yi Zhanling's chest heaved as he said, with lingering fear. His cultivation level was only half a step to the 6th level of the Clear Chi realm. In fact, he was still at the 5th level of the Clear Chi realm. His opponent was the 6th level of the Clear Chi realm, Longshire, who possessed the blood of the Dragon Clan. The test of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land is really tricky. If I had not discovered the weakness in Longshire's abdomen, I would not have been able to pass. Yi Zhanling sighed as he stood on the spot. He did not immediately check the words on the stone tablet beside him. After a full 15 minutes, Yi Zhongling finally adjusted his aura. Then, he looked at the stone tablet beside him. Indeed, I have to choose a martial skill in 3 days and cultivate it to a certain level. It seems that the first 2 tests of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land are the same. However, according to what the senior said, the 3rd test of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land is ever-changing. There is no way to guess. Yi Zhongling let out a sigh of relief as he walked toward the cabinet where the 10 profound rank martial skills were placed. Why are there only 8? Oh, it's back. Yi Zhongling said in shock as he looked at the cabinet that only had 8 books left. However, in the next moment, a light flashed on the cabinet, and the 7-star sword and Aurora sword arts that were taken away by Tianyang were restored. Since the test was for the participants to cultivate, it was impossible for them to take away all of the martial skills. 7-star sword art. I understand now. The reason why the Soaring Cloud sect only has the first 6 stars of the 7 stars of the Sword Company is because our ancestor only cultivated to 6 stars. Yi Zhongling looked at the 7 stars sword combo in shock. He never thought that the strongest sword technique of the Soaring Cloud sect would appear here. Soon after, Yi Zhongling was somewhat relieved. However, his heart also became a bit heavier. The ancestor of the Lingyun sect who brought the 7-star sword back to the Lingyun sect was a godlike existence to the people of the Arctic state. Not only had he broken through to the 8th stage of the origin transformation stage, which was unprecedented in the Arctic state, he had even walked out of the Arctic state, and even walked out of this region to the dazzling Heaven continent. At that time, the entire region was shocked by the ancestor of the Lingyun school. Such a genius had only cultivated the 7 stars of sword linkage to the 6 stars of sword linkage. It seemed like the 2nd test of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Ground would not be as easy as he had imagined. Speaking of which, this 7-star sword actually came from the Hidden Dragon Ancient Ground? How shocking! Yi Zhongling said with a smile as he took down the 7-star sword linkage. He had cultivated the 7-star sword linkage and had even cultivated it to the peak of the 3-star sword linkage. Cultivating the next one would be much easier. Since the tester has cultivated the 7-star sword linkage, the standard of the 2-star sword linkage has been raised to the 5-star sword linkage. The cold mechanical voice of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Ground resounded again. Yi Zhongling was stupefied when he heard it. The ancestor did not say anything about this. Oh no, to cultivate to the 5-star sword linkage in 3 days, I will have to risk my life. Yi Zhongling sighed. He never thought that the Hidden Dragon Ancient Ground would be so intelligent. Soon after, he took the 7 stars sword linkage martial skill scroll and walked towards the martial skill cultivation room. He had heard that cultivating martial skills in the Hidden Dragon Ancient Ground's martial skill cultivation room would be faster. He hoped so. This Aurora sword technique is easier to cultivate than the 7-star sword linkage. I only used an hour to cultivate it to the great achievement. As for the martial skill realm, it has to be used in battle. Yi Zhongling? At this moment, a young man walked out from another martial skill cultivation room. The young man looked at Yi Zhongling in surprise. You passed too? This speed is not bad. Tianyang nodded slightly. At this moment, Yi Zhongling's expression was as if he had seen a ghost. Tianyang. Yi Zhongling was shocked. Tianyang. Wasn't this the new inner disciple of the Soaring Cloud sect that he had high hopes for? He was only at the peak of the 2nd stage of the Bright Chi realm, yet he had such combat strength. His talent was amazing. However, no matter how amazing his talent was, Tianyang's cultivation was only at the peak of the 2nd stage of the Bright Chi realm. How could he not lose to Longshire in the first test? Why are you here? Yi Zhongling was shocked. Hearing this, Tianyang's face revealed a strange expression. I passed the first test. Of course, I'm here. Hearing this, Yi Zhongling's face twitched. Longshire, who had made him fight for a long time, was just an understatement to Tianyang. Passed. Moreover, Yi Zhongling glanced at Tianyang. There wasn't even a trace of blood on his body, and his face wasn't as pale as after a great battle. It was only a little bit of paleness. It seemed that he had only consumed his Zhen Yuan. Tianyang, who had given him a headache, passed the first test so easily? At this moment, Yi Zhanling only felt that his mind was a little confused. Due to the fact that the testee's cultivation speed is too amazing, please try again. At this moment, the cold mechanical voice sounded again. Hearing this, Tianyang frowned slightly and looked at the target that suddenly appeared in front of him. Your own target. You don't even have confidence in your own target. Tianyang muttered. Then, the flaming wind sword in his hand suddenly attacked twice. So troublesome. At this moment, the target was already full of holes, as if it was about to collapse. At this moment, the cold mechanical voice seemed to be dumbfounded. Congratulations to the testee for passing the second test perfectly. After all the testees have passed the second test, you may proceed to the third test. It seemed that Tianyang's speed of cultivating two profound level martial skills to the peak of the second stage of the profound level martial skills in less than 2 hours was too terrifying. So much so that even the cold mechanical voice had a hint of flattery. Then, the target disappeared. Tianyang had also heard the last sentence of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land. The Hidden Dragon Ancient Land was really troublesome to deal with. They still had to wait until all the participants were done. Little did he know that Yi Zhanling, who was watching this scene from the side, was already stunned. Chapter 124. 7 Stars Sword Combo. Looking at the 7 sword lights that flashed by, Yi Zhanling could no longer remain calm as he exclaimed in shock. Hearing this, Tianyang, who was planning to train the Aurora sword art, stopped what he was doing, turned around and asked curiously, "Is there a problem?" No. Yi Zhanling stuttered as he spoke. Although this was not the Lingyun school, the 7 Stars of the Sword Company was openly placed there and anyone could cultivate it. However, he was very clear that although his battle was long, it was definitely not more than a few hours. In the Soaring Cloud sect, Tianyang obviously did not exchange for the 7-star sword combo to train. Although he had completed many missions and had a large amount of sect contribution points. However, Tianyang either did not use those contribution points or used them all to exchange for spiritual stones. He did not use any of them to exchange for martial skills at all. When he first heard this news, Yi Zhanling was also puzzled and thought that Tianyang had made a wrong choice. Now, it seemed that it was not that he did not want to exchange for it, but that he did not want it at all. Even the complete version of the 7-star sword combo could be trained to the peak in just a few hours. Although it did not seem like he had comprehended the concept of martial skills, but this cultivation speed could be called monstrous. This cultivation speed? No wonder he dared to say such bold words outside. If the 3 trials of the Dragon Lake were a little later, perhaps Tianyang would have already reached the 3rd level of the Bright Chi realm. Yi Zhanling turned around with difficulty and walked into his martial skill training room. He did not continue watching. Tianyang's cultivation speed had already dealt a heavy blow to his heart as the eldest senior of the Soaring Cloud sect. Therefore, Yi Zhanling did not want to continue watching. If Tianyang displayed any monstrous battle results, he could not guarantee that his Dao heart would not be damaged. This profound level martial skill is really not bad. Putting the 7-star sword combo aside, although this martial skill was powerful, it was not something that could be used in a normal attack. However, the Aurora sword art was different. Unlike the 7-star sword combo, which specialized in specific moves and attacks, the Aurora swordsmanship cultivated one's own sword to an extremely fast speed. Being as fast as the Aurora was the characteristic of the Aurora sword art. At this moment, Tianyang had already cultivated the Aurora swordsmanship to the peak of the Great Accomplishment realm. As long as he broke through to the Perfection realm, he would be able to comprehend the Aurora essence. The speed of his ordinary attacks would also be greatly improved. To Tianyang, the Aurora swordsmanship was much better than the 7 stars of sword. However, although the battles at the Bright Chi realm are short, the slowest one will probably drag on for a few hours. It will take another 3 days, plus a few hours to participate in the 3rd test. Cultivating too fast is also a troublesome matter. Zhang Xian muttered to himself. Tianyang muttered as he waved his flaming wind sword. He wondered how many people would want to beat him to death if word of this got out. Master. Not long after Yi Zhanling entered the martial technique training room, a surprise shout came from the side. Tianyang didn't even move his head and knew that his precious disciple had come. Master, why are you here? Don't you need to cultivate the profound rank martial technique to a certain level to pass the second test? Ling Yuhan asked in surprise and doubt as she arrived in front of Tianyang. Soon after, she seemed to have thought of something and her face flushed red. Could it be that Master was waiting for her and was sitting here? I finished it a long time ago. The martial techniques here are not challenging at all, Tianyang muttered. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan, who was immersed in a young girl's fantasy, suddenly stiffened. Her young girl's heart was heartlessly shattered. However, in the next moment, she was also shocked like Yi Zhanling. Master's talent was extremely high, but he learned the profound rank martial technique in just a few hours. This martial talent was too. All right, I've seen the 10 profound rank martial techniques here. Only the ice condensing sword is suitable for you. However, that is an explosive martial technique. It won't be easy to cultivate it. Master is only giving a suggestion. As for what you want to learn, you can decide for yourself. Tianyang reminded. Among the 10 martial techniques here, one could only choose once. Therefore, the first choice was especially important. Now, Tianyang, who was extremely bored, was secretly regretting. Why didn't he take all 10 profound rank martial techniques? Although most of them were useless, there was no harm in having more martial techniques. Moreover, Tianyang was really bored to death now. Explosive martial techniques? Hearing this, Ling Yuhan was stunned. Her expression changed slightly. She was not a beginner. Explosive martial techniques had a huge effect in a life and death battle. If, in an evenly matched battle, the battle was originally in a stalemate, and one side suddenly displayed an explosive martial skill, then the outcome would be decided. An explosive martial technique allowed one to erupt with one's strongest power in an instant. However, this kind of martial technique required one to control one's true origin. Even if Ling Yuhan cultivated the Ice Emperor's Sky Sword skill, Tianyang was not very sure that she could cultivate it well. Of course, with Ling Yuhan's talent, it would not be a problem for her to cultivate it to the small accomplishment level in 3 days' time. That martial technique is really difficult to cultivate. Ling Yuhan's eyes narrowed slightly. Her beautiful eyebrows wrinkled slightly, but they immediately relaxed. This is Master's suggestion. How can I reject it? I have decided. I will choose the ice sword. Ling Yuhan smiled crisply. Hearing this, Tianyang was a little surprised. He thought that Ling Yuhan would choose a simpler martial technique. He did not expect that she would really choose the ice sword. However, the ice sword was indeed very suitable for Ling Yuhan, especially the combination of the Ice Emperor's Sky Sword skill and Ling Yuhan's 9 Nether Saint body. Although Ling Yuhan's 9 Nether Saint body was sealed, it would allow her to cultivate the ice martial technique with half the effort. Then, Master, see you in 3 days. After taking down the ice sword martial technique scroll, Ling Yuhan jumped in front of Tianyang. She waved at Tianyang and walked into a martial technique cultivation room. As for Tianyang, he continued to sit there in boredom. Occasionally, the disciples of the fourth sex came in. Tianyang was not very polite. Although this was not a place to kill, what was Tianyang's realm? Tianyang tricked these cultivators in the Bright Chi realm without anyone knowing. If the last test was related to combat, these people would probably be miserable. Of course, when he met people from the Soaring Cloud sect, such as Yang Xiong and Zhang Chun, Tianyang was not polite and directly gave them some guidance. It wasn't until the last person walked into the second test and started cultivating in the martial skill cultivation room that the martial skill cultivation room. Everyone knew that the person sitting at the door had an unfathomable martial technique talent. Chapter 125. 3 days later, when the last person walked out of the cultivation room, Tianyang finally ended his cultivation and woke up. This was because his 7-star sword art and Aurora sword art had reached the peak of the second stage, which was the so-called peak of the Great Accomplishment realm. If he continued to cultivate, it would be useless. In addition, Tian Yang's other martial skills, spiritual rhino sword finger and flowing cloud sword art, had already been cultivated to the third stage, which was the martial skill concept. Furthermore, Tian Yang had created the shocking cloud sword technique on the basis of the flowing cloud sword technique. Just one sword technique had the power of a low-grade earth rank martial technique. Therefore, even if Tian Yang wanted to cultivate other martial techniques, he could not do it. He could only cultivate his true origin. After 3 days of cultivation, Tian Yang's true origin did not increase. He was still at the peak of the second stage of the clear Qi realm. However, Tian Yang's true origin purity had improved a little. This little bit was useless now. However, once his true origin liquefied and he broke through to the transformed origin realm, the purity of his true origin would be a huge gift to Tian Yang. When Tian Yang was traveling the mainland 10,000 years ago, he had heard of many super geniuses. When they were in the clear Qi realm, their true origin purity was shocking. Once they broke through to the transformed origin realm, their combat power would increase tremendously. However, these were stories for later. At the moment, Tian Yang was still in the hidden dragon ancient land. 128 people came in. 40 of them were gone in the first test. There were fewer in the second test, but still, 18 of them were gone. Almost half of them were gone in an instant. Tian Yang muttered as he scanned the crowd. He did not try to hide his voice, so everyone could hear him clearly. Hearing this, the faces of the Earthly Way Sect's first senior brother and the Wolf Tiger Sect's first senior brother turned ugly. Out of the 58 people, the two sects had taken 26 of them. The other sects had more or less lost some members. Only the Soaring Cloud sect had survived from the beginning until now. The others did not know, but the disciples of the Soaring Cloud sect knew that the reason why they were able to pass the second test was because of Tian Yang's guidance. Yi Zhanling and Ling Yuhan were still fine. The conditions inside the martial skill cultivation room were far better than the outside world. Even if they didn't have Tian Yang's guidance, they could still meet the requirements. However, people like Yang Xiong and Zhang Chun were in a bit of a predicament. Those who were even less talented than them would have been eliminated from the very beginning. However, because of a few words of advice from Tian Yang, these people had reached their current level. Even the weakest among them had completed the requirements of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land, which meant that they had reached the middle stage of the first stage of the 3 stages of martial skill cultivation. The most powerful one, other than Tian Yang, was not Yi Zhanling, but Ling Yuhan. Ling Yuhan had obviously cultivated the extremely difficult to cultivate explosive martial technique, the Frozen Sword, but she had forcibly cultivated it all the way to the second stage of the initial stage. He had only used 3 days to achieve this. If this kind of cultivation speed were to spread, it would cause an uproar in the Arctic state. However, martial skills and cultivation were different. If he did not say it, it would be hard for others to know. The third test. Therefore, the others did not pay too much attention to Ling Yuhan. The third test only has one rule, and that is to kill. At this time, the emotionless mechanical voice rang out. This time, the remaining 70 people heard it clearly. Kill. Hearing this, many people's faces changed. Could it be that the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land wanted them to kill each other? The remaining 70 people, other than Tian Yang and Ling Yuhan, were all geniuses at stage 4 or 5 of the Radiant Qi realm. These geniuses were actually going to kill each other? Those who passed the final test must kill at least 5 of the remaining 70 people within 2 days. The mechanical voice of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land said emotionlessly. Hearing this, Yi Zhanling's face turned ugly. Killing at least 5 of them? One must know that these people were all at stage 4 or 5 of the Radiant Qi realm. The strongest one was at the peak of stage 5 of the Radiant Qi realm, and was only a step away from stage 6. It would be difficult to injure these geniuses, let alone kill them. No wonder there had not been anyone who passed all 3 tests in the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land for many years. The difficulty of the third test was countless times more difficult than the first and second test combined. The third test begins. The mechanical voice did not give them much time to think. In the next moment, the mechanism of the hidden dragon ancient land was activated, and the 70 people were transported to a certain place. Kill! On the black plain, Tianyang held the flaming wind sword in his hand, and the corner of his mouth curled up. This test of the hidden dragon ancient land is really what I wanted. Let me calculate. If I kill 60% of the people from the Blood Soul sect, Earth and Way sect, Snow Mountain sect, and Wolf Tiger sect, I can kill 20 of them. Heavenly Sword, I prepared another feast for you, Tianyang smiled. Then, he activated his true yuan and immediately flew out. His soul power spread out. Although the black plain was vast, it was still unobstructed by Tianyang's soul power. Damn it, the third test started so soon. I didn't even get a chance to contact the others. At this moment, an Earth and Way sect disciple stood in place and smashed a huge rock in front of him. However, this Black Plains environment is suitable for my Earth and Way sect. This time, one of the 3 tests of the Hidden Dragon Ancient Land must be passed by my Earth and Way sect. The Earth and Way sect disciple sneered, then walked out. At this moment, a white figure suddenly flashed past him and appeared in front of him. The white-clothed youth stood with a sword behind his back. He had a warm smile on his face as he looked at the Earth and Way sect disciple. You're Tianyang. Ha! There was a path to heaven, but you didn't take it. Instead, you barged into hell. You actually dared to provoke me, Zhou Xing. A martial arts freak like you is about to die. The Earth and Way sect disciple, Zhou Xing, laughed arrogantly. He was a cultivator at the 5th stage of the Clear Chi realm. In his opinion, Tianyang was only at the peak of the 2nd stage of the Clear Chi realm. Such a person wouldn't even last one round in front of him. This guy's martial arts talent may be strong, but his martial soul is only a low-grade yellow ranked martial soul. His true martial arts talent is trash. However, to have such powerful martial arts knowledge, he must be from a big family. He must have many treasures on him. If I kill him, not only will I be able to avenge my humiliation, but I can also steal his treasures. Zhou Xing sneered. In the next moment, he activated his true yuan and attacked. Die. Martial Soul, Wind Hand, low-grade profound, ranked martial technique, Wind Hammer, Aurora, sword technique. Tianyang smiled. His sword was as fast as a ray of light, directly piercing through Zhou Xing's body. The power of his martial soul was quickly devoured. Zhou Xing could only feel his vision blurring. Then, he fell heavily to the ground. An Earth and Way sect disciple at the 5th stage of the Clear Chi realm even used a high-grade yellow-ranked martial soul. Chapter 126. After killing Zhou Xing, Tianyang did not even bother to search his dimensional bag. He only took out the spirit stones and threw them back. Apart from the spirit stones, the items of this level of Earth and Way sect disciple were of no use to Tianyang. Moreover, although this disciple's cultivation was not weak, the quality of his martial soul was only that of a normal upper-grade yellow rank. According to Tianyang's senses, Zhou Xing's martial soul was barely at the upper-grade yellow rank. Therefore, even if he completely devoured Zhou Xing's martial soul, Tianyang's Sky Cloud sword would not improve by much. Killing one, and that's all I got. It's a bit of loss. Tianyang muttered. Then, his soul energy detected the existence of another target. His eyes lit up, and his body flashed as he flew towards that person. His strength had reached the 5th level of the Bright Chi realm. Generally speaking, the items on this level would not be too bad. I actually got separated from Master. At this moment, Ling Yuhan frowned as she looked at the darkness around her. Although the sun in the sky was only showing a slight sign of setting, the Black Plains were originally boundless and serene darkness. Once night fell, it would be much more difficult to find the others. I didn't think that I would meet such a rare specimen so soon after reaching the 3rd test. At this moment, a perverted laughter came from the side. Ling Yuhan's expression changed slightly as a sense of danger rose in her heart. She hurriedly used her body movement technique and retreated a few steps. Just in the instant that Ling Yuhan had just retreated explosively, a tyrannical true essence bolt bombarded there. A large crater was even smashed into the ground. Ling Yuhan's expression changed slightly, but based on this, she was able to determine the person's strength. He was at the 4th level of the Bright Chi realm, but had not reached the peak. If possible, she could fight him. And he's from the Soaring Cloud sect? How can a small sect like this possess such a top-notch item? Little girl, why don't you join our Snow Mountain sect and leave this broken sect? A young man wearing the robes of a disciple of the Snow Mountain sect walked out and looked at Ling Yuhan with a lewd smile. Hearing this, Ling Yuhan's face suddenly darkened. She seems to have some temper. This young master likes women with a temper the most. Get down on the ground. Blizzard fist. With a sinister laugh, the young man's figure suddenly disappeared from his original spot. A strong and powerful gust of wind rushed towards Ling Yuhan. Seeing this, Ling Yuhan's expression changed slightly. The inner yuan in her body surged. The inner yuan of the peak of the clear Qi realm gathered in the blue sea sword. Wind and rain, 5 swords. Ling Yuhan's previous trump card was also a powerful martial technique. She suddenly slashed out. Child's play. Watch how this young master breaks it. The young man smiled contemptuously. He gathered a powerful fist with true essence and suddenly smashed it onto Ling Yuhan's Jade Sea Sword. Kacha! The 5-sword shadows formed by the Jade Sea Sword were directly shattered by this punch, emitting a cracking sound. However, seeing this, not only did Ling Yuhan's expression not change, he even revealed a trace of a smile. Sword of Ice. Ling Yuhan shouted. The inner yuan in her body surged rapidly. A violent force gathered on the Jade Sea Sword. What? Feeling this violent force, the young man's expression changed. Just as he was about to retreat, Ling Yuhan had already used the pre-control of the Sword of Ice. The young man's right arm was directly frozen by the ice. Unless the young man was willing to cut off his arm, there was no way he could retreat. You're just a piece of trash at the peak of the clear Qi realm. What can this sword do to me? The young man sneered. The martial spirit in his body burst out. Martial spirit bell canopy. In an instant, a huge bell canopy appeared on the young man's body, firmly enclosing him. Seeing this, Ling Yuhan smiled lightly. This martial spirit was good for defense. If it was someone else who used the Sword of Ice, he might have been able to block it. However, don't forget, Ling Yuhan had opened up a Qi sea of 900 feet. She was a terrifying genius who could stand at the top of the continent. Ling Yuhan's Sword of Ice was filled with all her inner yuan. Even if there were 2 more bell canopies, they would not be able to block it. In an instant, a terrifyingly sharp sword of ice froze the bell canopy. In the next moment, the bell canopy shattered. The Jade Sea Sword's momentum did not decrease and directly slashed the young man's body. The young man's face suddenly stiffened. Then, the terrifying Qi of ice froze the young man's body. After that, Ling Yuhan slashed out with her sword. The Clear Qi Realm 4th-stage young man from the Snow Mountain sect was killed by Ling Yuhan in 2 moves. Clean and neat. This kid's collection is not bad. He actually has such an item. After spending some effort to kill the 5th-stage Clear Qi Realm disciple of the Wolf Tiger sect, Tianyang casually waved his hand and summoned his dimensional bag. Tianyang's soul energy entered the bag. To his surprise, other than a few thousand spirit stones, there was something else in the bag. A beast strength pill that can increase a Clear Qi Realm cultivator's strength in a short period of time. I've heard that the effects are pretty good. Unfortunately, this person did not even have the chance to eat it. Tianyang smiled. In the previous battle, Tianyang had controlled the situation from the beginning. Although that person's cultivation was not bad, he did not stand a chance against the heavenly Tao. As a result, that person did not even have the chance to eat the beast strength pill until his death. After emptying the bag of valuable items, Tianyang threw the beast strength pill into his dimensional bag. This kind of pill that could increase one's battle strength in a short period of time was very precious. Even if he did not need it, he could sell it at the auction house for at least 1,000,000 gold coins. You actually dare to kill my junior brother. You brat who dare to spout nonsense outside the mountain range has some guts. Just as Tianyang finished looting the person's dimensional bag, a cold voice came from the side. Hearing this, Tianyang was not surprised. Earlier in the battle, Tianyang had already sensed that this person was rushing over. However, before this person could arrive, the fifth stage Clear Chi Realm disciple had died at the hands of Tianyang. Yes, I killed your junior brother. What can you do about it? Tianyang raised his head and smiled. He could tell the strength of the person in front of him at a glance. The peak of the fifth stage Clear Chi Realm. However, with this level of cultivation, he had nothing to fear from Tianyang, who had easily killed Long Shi. Good, good, good. You, Tianyang, are the first person who dared to speak to me, the eldest senior brother of the Wolf Tiger sect, Zhang Wenhu, after killing my junior brother. As the price for speaking, I will take your life. The eldest senior brother of the Wolf Tiger sect, Zhang Wenhu, said furiously. Hearing this, Tianyang smiled. Chapter 127. You think you can do it? Tianyang chuckled. Hearing this, Zhang Wenhu's face turned green. He was one of the top 5 geniuses in the Hidden Dragon Ancient Ground. Zhang Wenhu from the Wolf Tiger sect, Chao Kuangying from the Blood Soul sect, Duan Yiqing from the Snow Mountain sect, Zhu Qing from the Earth and Wei sect, and Yi Zhanling from the Lingyun sect were the top 5 geniuses in the Hidden Dragon Ancient Ground. Among them, Zhang Wenhu was the strongest, Chao Kuangying was the most violent, Duan Yiqing was the strongest, and Zhu Qing was the best at hiding. Without a doubt, the strongest was Yi Zhanling from the Lingyun sect. However, the others were not to be underestimated either. It could be said that if an ordinary disciple were to meet one of the top 5 geniuses, they could only run. Now, Tianyang, who was only at the peak of the Bright Chi realm, dared to talk to Zhang Wenhu in such a manner. How could Zhang Wenhu not be angry? Kid, you're courting death. Zhang Wenhu's face was contorted as the veins on his forehead bulged. The true Yuan of the peak of the Bright Chi realm in his body surged as he dashed forward. I'm courting death, but do you have the ability to kill me? Tianyang smiled as he pulled out the flaming wind sword from his back. Facing Zhang Wenhu's attack, he was not afraid at all. He used the dragon's subduing step and charged forward. You dare to fight me head-on? Even Yi Zhanling would be at a disadvantage if he fought me head-on. You're only at the Bright Chi realm. You're courting death. Low-grade Mystic Martial Spirit, Mountain Tiger. High-grade Mystic Martial Skill, Violent Tiger Fist. Zhang Wenhu roared as a huge shadow of a mountain tiger appeared on his body. Then, the shadow of the mountain tiger merged with his body. In an instant, Zhang Wenhu's physical strength skyrocketed, and the Violent Tiger Fist, a high-grade profound ranked martial skill, became even more powerful. What's that? The senior of the Wolf Tiger sect, one of the top 5 geniuses, Zhang Wenhu, is fighting with someone? That person is Tianyang from the Lingyun sect? He actually forced Zhang Wenhu to use his martial spirit and Violent Tiger Fist. Tianyang is dead meat. Not far away, the disciples of 2 small sects exclaimed as they watched the battle between the two. This Zhang Wenhu is indeed the strongest of the 5 geniuses. With just one punch, even a cultivator at the peak of the 4th level of the Radiant Chi realm would be seriously injured. Violent Tiger Fist, Mountain Tiger Martial Spirit, and Mountain Tiger Martial Spirit, and the Wolf Tiger Sect Martial Spirit, and the Tiger Sect. Therefore, this punch, which was originally only capable of injuring a peak 4th level Bright Chi realm cultivator, was actually capable of severely injuring a peak 4th level Bright Chi realm cultivator. By Tianyang of my luck is pretty good to actually encounter such a compatible martial skill. Had Flaming Wind Sword, the Tiger Sword Fist Wind, Sword and Success. The Wind Flame Sword contained the power of wind and flames. Its attack speed was already very fast. In addition, Tianyang had just cultivated the Aurora Swordsmanship. As fast as the Aurora. In an instant, Tianyang's Flaming Wind Sword turned into countless afterimages. However, unlike the Cloud Shadow Sword, these afterimages were completely created by Tianyang's terrifying attack speed. Bang, 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 bang. Countless sounds of collisions rang out. Seeing this, Zhang Wenhu's face turned ugly. His violent tiger fist, which contained an enormous amount of power, was actually unable to break through the defense of these sword images. Don't think that you're all that just because you've learned a quick sword technique. Since you dare to kill my junior brother, then you should be prepared to die. Die? Berserk Tiger Fist. Zhang Wenhu roared, and the true essence in his body boiled. The might of the Berserk Tiger Fist also suddenly increased. He actually made Zhang Wenhu go berserk. This Tianyang is really amazing. In the future, his achievements will not be inferior to Zhang Wenhu. It's a pity that after using berserk, Zhang Wenhu's physical strength has reached a new level. Relying on Tianyang's quick sword, it's impossible for him to block Zhang Wenhu's fist. The genius of this generation is going to fall. The two small sect disciples sighed. Hearing this, Tianyang chuckled. Did he die? After Zhang Wenhu used berserk, his physical strength had indeed increased. However, his true essence level was still the same as before. His violent tiger fist had only reached the second stage of large success. If that's the case, then I'll crush you directly. Tianyang smiled. He shook his right hand and immediately changed his move. Then, 7 rays of star-like sword light burst out. 7 stars sword combo. Seeing these 7 rays of sword light, Zhang Wenhu's pupils shrank. This is 7 stars sword combo. How can you use 7-star sword combo? Moreover, you've cultivated it to the level of 7 stars. Damn it, even Yi Zhanling can only use 7-star sword combo. You trash, since your martial talent is so high, then don't leave. Zhang Wenhu coldly shouted. His heart was slightly frightened. Tianyang was only 15 years old, but he was able to cultivate 7-star sword combo to the level of 7 stars. This kind of talent is really terrifying. In the future, this Tianyang will definitely be a great threat to their wolf-tiger sect. Thinking of this, Zhang Wenhu's face suddenly became cold. The true essence contained in violent tiger fist exploded, blasting out fist shadows, and actually contending with the 7 rays of sword light. In the next moment, Zhang Wenhu's face revealed a trace of a sinister smile. Wolf-tiger footwork. In an instant, Zhang Wenhu arrived in front of Tianyang. Little brat, die! Zhang Wenhu roared. Violent tiger fist was displayed to the highest power and fiercely blasted towards Tianyang's face. At this time, Tianyang chuckled. His true essence calmed down. He raised his flaming wind sword and met the fist. Bang! Compared to the previous collision, an even more deafening explosion came from the center of the two's confrontation. In the next moment, the 2 small sect disciples were shocked. Tianyang actually blocked this fist. Zhang Wenhu, known as the strongest of the 5 geniuses, also had his reasons. Because Zhang Wenhu cultivated a body-refining technique that imitated tiger-type magical beasts. In a direct collision, even Yi Zhanling would not be willing to meet more than a few times. However, the scene that appeared in front of them almost subverted their understanding. They had always looked down on Tianyang, who they thought only had a good talent in martial arts, but his actual combat strength was not good. However, he actually blocked Zhang Wenhu's fist. This is your ultimate move? Easily blocking Zhang Wenhu's fist, Tianyang raised his eyebrows and chuckled. This fist, for an ordinary cultivator in the Clear Chi realm, was indeed extraordinary. The physical strength contained in it was definitely not something an ordinary person could match. However, who was Tianyang? He was a person who cultivated the earth dragon body. In front of Tianyang, Zhang Wenhu's physical strength was like a chicken in front of an eagle. The difference was like heaven and earth. Chapter 128. Can't even withstand a single blow. When Tianyang said those words with a chuckle, the 2 disciples from the small sects fell into complete silence. Tianyang's strength was too strong. So strong that even Zhang Wenhu was no match for him. With this kind of strength, Tianyang definitely has the chance to enter the dragon transformation pool. We can't stay here any longer. If Tianyang is only 2 people short, he might just kill us with a single strike. The 2 disciples from the small sects looked at each other and understood each other's thoughts. They quietly retreated, afraid that they would attract Tianyang's attention. to be able to defeat Zhang Wenhu. This kind of strength was definitely not something they could contend against. If the immortals were to fight and choke them to death, they would have no reason to cry out, even if they went to the underworld. Bastard! How dare you send me flying? At this moment, Zhang Wenhu recovered from midair and landed on the ground furiously. He glared at Tianyang, who was smiling indifferently in the distance. His eyes were burning with anger. In the next moment, Zhang Wenhu used the wolf walk footwork again and rushed forward. Die, brat! Zhang Wenhu roared, and a huge tiger-shaped broadsword appeared in his hand. The aura that it exuded had reached the level of a middle-grade treasure weapon. It was of the same level as the flaming wind sword and was only slightly inferior to the dragon saber. You big sex disciples are really rich. Looking at the tiger-shaped broadsword, Tianyang said helplessly. After his rebirth, he had only used 3 swords. The first was a worthless steel sword. The second was his disciple Ling Yuhan's jade sea sword. The third was the flaming wind sword that he had snatched from Wu Meng. In order to snatch the flaming wind sword, Tianyang had ruthlessly taught Wu Meng a lesson. In the end, Zhang Wenhu took out a middle-grade treasure weapon that was not inferior to his flaming wind sword. With this tiger-shaped broadsword, my strength will definitely increase by more than 30%. This way, Tianyang is dead for sure. Zhang Wenhu laughed madly in his heart. In the next moment, he rushed towards Tianyang with a saber that was 10 feet long. Treasures aren't bad, but humans themselves are trash. What's the point? Tianyang glanced at the tiger-shaped broadsword and chuckled. Hearing this, Zhang Wenhu's expression became even more sinister. Trash? Brat, you lost your life because of these 2 words. Wild tiger, tyrant, saber art. Zhang Wenhu crazily roared, and the true essence within his body rapidly poured into the tiger-shaped saber. The tiger-shaped saber seemed to tear through the air, emitting a loud whistling sound. Tianyang raised his eyebrows when he heard that. The wild tiger tyrant saber art was pretty powerful. It had probably reached the peak of the profound class. Moreover, this was the saber technique that Tianyang had mercilessly abandoned during the second test. Once its power was displayed, it was comparable to a half-step Earth class. It's a good thing to have a strong physical body to use this saber technique. However, if your opponent's physical body is stronger than yours, this good thing will turn into a disaster. Tianyang chuckled. Hearing this, Zhang Wenhu was stunned, and a bad premonition arose in his heart. At this moment, a light flashed in Tianyang's eyes, and the flaming wind sword in his hand suddenly gathered all of Tianyang's strength. Break from me! Tianyang roared, and the flaming wind sword exploded with a dazzling light. He didn't use any martial skills, and only used his physical strength to collide with the wild tiger tyrant saber art. Boom! A violent wave of air accompanied by an equally violent explosion spread out, and in the blink of an eye, it engulfed the entire area. The faces of the 2 small sect disciples who had just left changed. This strength was too terrifying. In the center of the battle, Zhang Wenhu's face was completely filled with fear. He couldn't believe that Tianyang's skinny body contained a physical strength that could crush him 1,000 times over. In a collision just now, the wild tiger tyrant saber art's tiger-shaped saber actually shattered. I'm a disciple of the wolf tiger sect. You can't kill me. Zhang Wenhu, who had been sent flying by the terrifying strength, watched in horror as Tianyang approached step by step. His legs trembled uncontrollably. Then, as if he had found a life-saving straw, Zhang Wenhu hurriedly shouted. Hearing this, Tianyang's footsteps paused, just as Zhang Wenhu's heart was filled with joy, thinking that Tianyang was afraid of the wolf tiger sect. Tianyang's leisurely voice made him feel as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. I even killed Chao Kuangying of the Blood Soul sect. Why would I be afraid of Zhang Wenhu of the wolf tiger sect? Don't say anything else. Go to hell and tell the king of hell. Then, without hesitation, Tianyang slashed down with his sword. Zhang Wenhu's head split open, and blood spurted out. Zhang Wenhu died with his eyes wide open. Even at the moment of his death, He had not expected this. Before he died, Tianyong was the culprit behind Chao Kuangying's mysterious death. The low-grade mystic class martial spirit's power was abundant, so the heavenly sword's devouring speed increased. It was as if it had encountered a delicious meal. Soon, the heavenly sword had finished devouring all of Shan Hu's martial spirit's power. Its body glowed brightly, and Tianyong could clearly feel that the heavenly sword was not far from the half-step mystic class. It would be able to rank up after devouring a few more martial spirits. Let me count. There should be less than 20 deaths from the fourth sects right now, right? This is a good time for the heavenly sword to eat. Tianyong counted with his fingers, then released his soul energy. Using his soul energy that far surpassed everyone else's, he searched for his prey. Then, Tianyong's lips curled, and he used the dragon's subduing steps to leave. The two disciples of the smaller sects who were watching from afar only came out from behind a black boulder after Tianyong had left. They trembled as they looked at Zhang Wenhu's severed head. Although they had already guessed it, when Zhang Wenhu's corpse appeared in front of them, they couldn't help but feel a storm in their hearts. They knew that the reason Tianyong did not go looking for them was not because he did not see it. It was because the heavens did not care about the two of them who were only at the peak of the third stage of the Bright Chi realm. That's right, peak of the third stage of the Bright Chi realm was just an ant in front of Tianyong who was at the second stage of the Bright Chi realm. Yi Zhanling, are you trying to go against the Blood Soul sect? At this moment, on the other side, a Blood Soul sect disciple looked at Yi Zhanling who was in front of him and said coldly. Hearing this, Yi Zhanling chuckled as he stroked the bloody longsword in his hand. The hidden dragon ancient land is not owned by your family, and the Snow Nation is not dominated by your Blood Soul sect. You want to kill me, so I'll kill you. It's only right and proper. What's there to go against? Yi Zhanling chuckled. After that, his sword fell, and that person died in Yi Zhanling's hands. The second one, at the same time, in another place. Ling Yuhan gasped for breath, and the jade sea sword in his hand trembled slightly. However, he still spoke in a low voice. Chapter 129. The sun disappeared, and the moon hung high in the sky, under the dark night. How can you be so strong when you're only at the peak of the second level of the Bright Chi realm? Duan Yiqing, the eldest senior brother of the Snow Mountain sect, said in a trembling voice as he stared in shock at Tianyong, who had killed a person every 10 steps. The Snow Mountain sect was much luckier than the other sections. Most of the disciples had gathered together in just 2 hours. They thought that with such unity, the Snow Mountain sect would be invincible in the third test, and they would pass the third test easily. However, they did not expect to attract a super strong person like Tianyong. Tianyong's true yuan had already broken Duan Yiqing's common sense. He could not imagine how someone at the peak of the second level of the Bright Chi realm could casually use profound ranked martial arts. The pile of profound ranked martial arts not only dazzled Duan Yiqing, but also shocked him. If he wanted to use such an attack, even if he was at the peak of the fifth level of the Bright Chi realm, he would have to consume a lot of true yuan. However, Tianyong looked as if nothing had happened. He killed one person with his sword and another with his fist. Moreover, he was still walking toward him. Why? Of course, it was because of the divine wilderness sky spirit technique. How could the technique created by the Tianji Sword Emperor be weak? Although the Bright Chi realm could only cultivate the first level of the divine wilderness sky spirit technique, it could greatly increase Tianyong's battle recovery speed. In addition to Tianyong's ultimate sea of Qi, as long as he did not use the Sky Sword technique or the Dragon Sword divine ability, Tianyong's true yuan was almost inexhaustible. Moreover, among the 5 geniuses, Duan Yiqing did not have any special points. They were all very average. However, if one was called a genius, then this average was mediocre. Therefore, among the 5 geniuses, Duan Yiqing was ranked at the bottom. He was the weakest one. In front of Tianyong, who had already killed Chao Kuangying and Zhang Wenhu, 2 of the 5 geniuses, this kind of person was like a free meal. Tianyong, you have already killed so many disciples of the Snow Mountain sect. It's more than enough to pass the third test. Don't go too far. Seeing that Tianyang was getting closer and closer, Duan Yiqing's expression changed greatly, and he said hurriedly, "Our Snow Mountain sect is not a force of your Arctic state. I'm not afraid of your Soaring Cloud sect. If you dare to kill me, your Soaring Cloud sect will definitely provoke an unstoppable enemy. After all, the Snow Mountain sect is only a 9th-ranked sect. I don't care about 9th-ranked sections," Tianyang said calmly. Hearing that, Duan Yiqing's face turned livid. "Tianyang, how dare you say that? Didn't that mean that Tianyang was determined to kill him? Since you want to kill me, you, Tianyang, won't have it easy either. Martial spirit, Snow Kite." Duan Yiqing roared angrily. A rarely seen shadow of a snow falcon appeared on his body. Then, he charged toward Tianyang at an astonishing speed. Seeing this, Tianyang softly grinned. If he was faster, his attack power would increase. However, to Tianyang, such an increase was the same as not increasing his attack power. They were both too weak to withstand a single blow. "Shocking cloud," Tianyang softly shouted, and the true yuan in his body gushed out. In the next moment, a violent force pushed back Duan Yiqing, who was using his martial spirit, who was half a step away from the profound rank. In the process of being pushed back, Tianyang casually slashed his sword, causing Duan Yiqing to suffer a double blow. Duan Yiqing's face suddenly turned pale, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. At this moment, the other Snow Mountain sect disciples seemed to have found an opportunity. They roared angrily and charged forward. "How dare you kill my martial brother and injure senior brother? Tianyang, you're courting death. Everyone, let's attack together." This trash used so many profound rank martial skills. He must have used up a lot of his martial spirit. "Attack! Kill him!" The Snow Mountain sect disciples roared angrily. Seeing this, Tianyang smiled faintly. Seeing this smile, Duan Yiqing's expression changed greatly. No, he had seen this smile a few times. Every time, the Snow Mountain sect disciples who wanted to resist would be killed directly. It was like the smile of the Grim Reaper, chilling people's hearts. Sky Sword skill, first style Sky Soaring. Tianyang chuckled. The flaming wind sword in his hand exploded with boundless light. A tyrannical sword, Chi, slashed through the air, killing the Snow Mountain sect disciples. Even if the Snow Mountain sect disciples had the advantage in numbers, and all of them used their martial spirits, they still could not block this sword. One sword in the air, 10,000 people bowed their heads. In Tianyang's sword, there was a supreme emperor's aura. As an enemy, Duan Yiqing could not help but tremble. At this time, Sky Soaring Sword had already arrived in front of the Snow Mountain sect disciples. Seeing this, Duan Yiqing's face turned ashen. The Snow Mountain sect was finished. So many young disciples had died in Tianyang's hands. The Snow Mountain sect's vitality would definitely be greatly damaged. Rip. The attacks, the power of their martial spirits, the defenses in front of this sword were as weak as tofu. They could not withstand a single blow. Suddenly, streams of blood spurted out. The Snow Mountain sect disciples surrounding Tianyang froze in horror for a moment. Then, they all fell to the ground. 5 disciples of the Snow Mountain sect, 5 of them at the 4th level of the Bright Chi realm, had been killed by Tianyang's sword. Why? Duan Yiqing's face was ashen. He fell to his knees and looked at Tianyang, who was like an ancient emperor with his sword in the air. Hearing this, Tianyang only smiled. The world of martial arts was cruel. The weak were prey to the strong. Previously, when he had first appeared in the Heavenly Sun realm, these Snow Mountain sect disciples had wanted to kill him before he could even make a move. Some of them had even wanted to hang his head in public. Now, Tianyang wanted to kill them. Naturally, he would not show any mercy. Those who kill will be killed by others. The moment you try to kill me, your fate was sealed, Tianyang said calmly. Hearing this, Duan Yiqing's face showed a trace of understanding and also a trace of despair. Tianyang's strength was too strong. Although he was only at the peak of Clear Chi realm, he could still kill them like killing chickens. With such strength, Duan Iching, as one of the 5 geniuses, did not have the slightest intention to resist. When a person wanted to kill an ant, would the ant have the heart to resist? Of course not. That was the case for Duan Iching. However, even if I die, you will not have an easy time. Duan Iching's face suddenly became ferocious. He roared, and the true yuan in his body boiled. Ignite your martial spirit. Tianyang Dai. Avalanche technique. Duan Iching roared. Like a snowy mountain collapsing, his hand print carried the terrifying power of an avalanche and rushed towards Tianyang. Avalanche technique, half-step to the earth level. The strongest martial technique of the Snow Mountain sect. It was comparable to the Lingyun seal of the Lingyun sect. Is this useful? Tianyang sighed. I have already broken through to the 2nd level of the Clear Chi realm. I can use the Sky Level Sword technique 2 or 3 times now. Then Tianyang swung his sword again. Once again, the Sky Level Sword technique exploded and completely shattered the avalanche handprint. In the next moment, the sword swept past Duan Iching's neck without any suspense, killing him. All the geniuses of the Snow Mountain sect who had entered the 3rd test, including those killed by others. Chapter 130. The Snow Mountain sect was annihilated. No one expected that the Snow Mountain sect, which was second only to the Blood Soul sect among the 4 sects, would be in the 3rd trial. They were all annihilated. 90% of the Snow Mountain sect disciples were killed by Tianyang alone. Allow me to calculate. The 4 sects have suffered heavy casualties. I don't want to kill them anymore. Tianyang pretended to count his fingers and took the space bags from the corpses. He only had one goal: pills and spiritual stones. Soon, Tianyang had looted all the space bags. Tianyang had a terrifying 30,000 spiritual stones in a space bag. There were also some pills, such as the Beast Strength pill, that could increase one's strength for a short period of time. Tianyang had 3 of them. This trip to the Hidden Dragon Ancient Ground was really fruitful. I've used up a lot of energy. I can't kill anymore. However, the number of deaths in the Hidden Dragon Ancient Ground should be more than 100. Tianyang walked to a place far away. Suddenly, his face turned pale, and he coughed out a mouthful of blood. Tianyang had been fighting nonstop for the entire day. At the beginning, he could easily deal with them and even kill them. However, towards the end, when he was fighting against the Snow Mountain sect disciples, he started to feel powerless. No matter what, he was only at the peak of the Clear Chi realm. After killing everyone from the Snow Mountain sect, Tianyang had also suffered heavy injuries. Hence, he found a safe place to sit down cross-legged. He threw the healing pill into his mouth and began to refine its medicinal power. Although Tianyang had used up a lot of energy, he had used 80% of his true yuan to kill dozens of people. This was an impressive feat. As for the others, they were like Tianyang. After the continuous killing, they gradually fell into a state of exhaustion. The number of deaths in the Hidden Dragon Ancient Ground began to decrease. F***CK. What's going on? Looking at the corpses in front of him, Yang Xiong could not help but curse. Duan Iching, Duan Changfeng, these are all from the Snow Mountain sect. From the looks of it, they were all inflicted by the same person. There's actually such a person in the Hidden Dragon Ancient Ground? One person slaughtered an entire sect. Yang Xiong couldn't help but exclaim in shock. The Snow Mountain sect was a top-ranked 9 sect. The disciples sent to the Hidden Dragon Ancient Ground would definitely be extremely powerful. Although Duan Iching's strength was ranked the weakest among the 5 great geniuses, he was not someone that could be defeated by ordinary people. However, the person who had caused the scene of corpses was also one of the 5 great geniuses, Duan Iching, including the ones killed by me and my fellow disciples from the Soaring Cloud sect, as well as the ones killed by the other sects. I'm afraid all of the people from the Snow Mountain sect who entered the 3rd test are dead. Yang Xiong murmured, his heart filled with incomparable shock. So it's like this. The Snow Mountain sect is definitely going crazy. Those who were able to enter the Hidden Dragon Ancient Ground were definitely the geniuses of the various sections. However, all the geniuses of the Snow Mountain sect had died here. No, I have to report this to the sect, as soon as possible. I have to inform Senior Yi Zhanling first. When I get out, I have to inform the sect. Yang Xiong's eyes flickered, and he immediately recovered. Almost all the young geniuses of the Snow Mountain sect had died in the Hidden Dragon Ancient Ground. What did this mean? It meant that the Snow Mountain sect had almost no fresh blood. How terrible was it for a sect to have no fresh blood? It could be said that the sect was not far from being destroyed. The destruction of the Snow Mountain sect represented a great deal of benefits. As the leader of the sects in the Arctic state, the Soaring Cloud sect naturally had to get a share of the benefits. Those who knew the news earlier would benefit more from the destruction of the Snow Mountain sect. Unknowingly, 2 days had passed. When a mechanical voice rang out, everyone realized that they couldn't move. What? Looking at the enemy who was only a short distance away from him, a Blood Soul sect disciple's face turned ugly. It ended at this time. Ha! God is helping me. The small sect disciple who was being chased laughed a few times. Then a silver light flashed, and he returned to the bottom of the dragon lake with the others. The same thing happened to the others. However, many of them were indifferent while some of them were extremely depressed. At the bottom of the dragon lake. What the F***CK? Even with Yi Zhanling's self-restraint, he could not help but curse. I only managed to kill 4 in the end. Aren't the disciples of the 4 major sects very arrogant? Why are they all cowards? I only needed 1 more to pass the 3rd test. Yi Zhanling roared. Hearing this, Yang Xiong and Zhang Chen's face turned strange, as if they were trying to hold back their laughter. Yi Zhanling was the leader of the 5 major geniuses. He was the strongest existence in the sect. Ordinary people would immediately turn around and run away when they saw him. In a place like the Black Plains, the people of the 4 major sects would immediately run away when they felt Yi Zhanling's aura. Therefore, even if Yi Zhanling was strong, he only managed to kill 4 people. It was extremely depressing. However, while the people of the Soaring Cloud sect were chatting happily, the atmosphere of the 4 major sects was extremely gloomy. The 5 major geniuses, except for Yi Zhanling and Zhu Qing, the others were all dead. The disciples of the Blood Soul sect, the Wolf Tiger sect, and the Earth and Way sect looked at the place that was originally occupied by the Snow Mountain sect in horror. There was no one there. In other words, the Snow Mountain sect was completely annihilated in the 3rd test. Who is it that can kill the entire Snow Mountain sect? Zhu Qing's heart trembled as she stared in horror at the empty corner. The wrinkles on her ugly face seemed to be trembling. The other sects were even more horrified. However, Tianyang stood at the side with Ling Yuhan and quietly looked at these people. Yuhan, how many did you kill? Tianyang said. After he recovered his true origin and injuries, he also killed a few. However, compared to the massacre of the Snow Mountain sect, it was much less. After all, the high-intensity battle that lasted for an entire day was a huge burden on Tianyang. His recovery was also very slow. 6. Ling Yuhan said. She frowned as if she was not very satisfied with the result. However, in the next moment, Ling Yuhan's eyes lit up. Master, how many did you kill? Ling Yuhan asked curiously. She was very clear about Tianyang's strength. She could use the Ice Emperor's heavenly sword skill to kill a few people who looked down on her. Tianyang was definitely stronger than her. Not many, just a dozen. Tianyang rubbed his nose. He had killed too many people, so much so that he couldn't even count them all. At this moment, the emotionless mechanical voice sounded again. The person who passed the 3rd test, Tianyang, Ling Yuhan. Ling Yuhan, number of kills, 6.